Good evening, everyone. Tonight we tread lightly into a winter that pierces far beyond the bone. It seizes you with astonishing force, leaving one wondering how folk of old avoided frozen fingers. Stepping from your thatched cottage, the air in this medieval hamlet hangs still. The chill is so sharp it seems to carve its mark into your bones. Inhaling stings your nostrils. Your breath escapes in wisps, like lost spirits drifting away. You might not endure such cold, yet the farmers of old did. Their familiar way of life, to our eyes, brims with wonder. These habits become a unique bedtime magic before settling down. If you truly enjoy my content, please like and subscribe. Should you wish to share your current time zone, feel free to leave a comment. Now, dim the lights. You push open the creaking wooden door and step back indoors. The biting wind vanishes abruptly, replaced by the thick, stagnant air of this humble dwelling. Night lashes fiercely against the window panes, foretelling an exceptionally cold night, the sort that even seasoned villagers mutter complaints about. The air carries the damp scent of wool, the lingering smoke of old fires, and the faintly sour smell of boots drying by the hearth. It was not an unpleasant smell, merely life stripped to its most primal state. You stepped forward to bolt the door. Every farmer understood that a gap in the door would let the cold wind slip inside, stealing what little warmth remained. This was not superstition, but survival wisdom forged through hundreds of harsh winters. In this Rome, at this moment, a simple truth accompanied you. Medieval peasants relied more on habitual insulation than true building techniques. They stuffed gaps with moss, cloth strips, with straw bundles, striving to block the biting wind from sweeping through. While this couldn't entirely ward off the harsh cold, it brought precious warmth. Your ears gradually acclimatized to the house's stillness, the thin walls transmitting the soft sound of wind rustling through distant woods. You shake the last few snowflakes from your cloak. The moment of first entering the house is always the same. Your skin tingles slightly from the effort of trying to warm up. Standing there rubbing your hands, you recall a detail seldom mentioned. Nowadays some farmers kept small pieces of tallow by the door. It served both to light the room and to soothe chapped lips or minor cuts on fingers. This was a trick passed down through generations, folded like a note within memory. You bent down, bringing your hands close to the faint glow of the hearth. The day's flames had faded to dark or in jumbers. The room seemed suspended at the boundary between light and shadow, where cold and warmth intertwined. Tranquility and restlessness coexisted. In this silence, you sensed the topics whispered by scholars. Historians still debate, did peasants passively endure the cold night, or did they reshape their rhythms with unimaginable ingenuity? This ancient dwelling perhaps bears witness to both views. You lean close to the embers, whispering a plea for the flames to reignite. A fire flickers faintly. Family members move freely within the cramped space, their movements gentle, accustomed to the crowding. Someone stifles a cough with their sleeve. Another stamps their shoes to shake off accumulated snow. A child attempts to warm stiff fingers, murmuring sleep minus dazed complaints. It is a small, yet full world. You note every detail, knowing these sounds will fill your dreams once you lie down. You reach up to touch the low ceiling beam, its underside frosted over. The frost is thin enough to be almost imperceptible, yet its chill makes you realize winter isn't just outside. It seeps into every joint and plank. When the wind sweeps across the roof, the straw filling between the beams trembles. For a moment, the dwelling reveals its true dimensions. You move towards your corner. The earthen floor beneath your feet is cold and slightly uneven. Each dip and rise etched into the memory of your souls. Countless nights have engraved them there. You spread out tonight's warmth a patched woolen jumper, a coarse linen sheet bearing the scent of smoke, and a bundle of straw to stuff the mattress. None of these possessions meet modern expectations of softness. Yet each is practical, substantial, dependable. You can almost hear winter sneering outside, mocking your belief that these humble things suffice, and yet they do suffice. Peasants have endured colder nights with less. You kneel to smooth the straw, letting the crackling soothe your mind. Prickly stalks shift beneath your palms. You recall the gossip heard earlier by the village well. That idle chatter that made you raise an eyebrow. Old Bran claimed scattering crushed juniper needles beneath the bed on a frosty winter night would make the frost spirits bypass the house. You suspected Bran merely enjoyed seeing folk try peculiar rituals, yet scattered some needles nonetheless. A small ceremony did no harm. The crisp scent alone was enough to banish the mustiness. You slipped beneath the covers, the chill seeping into your limbs like a slow current. Those first moments lying down were always the hardest. Winter's touch enveloped you. You drew your knees to your chest for warmth, rubbing your hands together once more, listening to the faint sound of skin against skin. The fire crackled, as if suggesting cooperation rather than generosity. You'd receive a little warmth, but nothing more. Staring at the tightly shut window panes, faint moonlight slipped through the narrow gaps into the room. The cold wind tapped lightly on the window panes once more, not fiercely, but with a hint of curiosity. You exhale, letting your breath drift into the air. The atmosphere is heavy, yet not suffocating. In this dim light, a strange thought creeps in. Do those in warmer climes truly understand that sleep is essential for survival? When warmth is threatened, does it not feel all the more precious? You close your eyes for a moment, letting sounds wash over you. Distant dog barked, neighbors' boots crunching through snow, the sudden crackle of the hearth fire, sparks dancing through the air. You open one eye to check if a spark has landed dangerously. It is not. You breathe a sigh of relief. Your thoughts drift with the house's quiet rhythm. All slows, all beings slow. Even the wind outside the window grows gentler. You pull your woolen scarf tighter around your neck, inhaling the lingering scent of juniper and smoke. As your body gradually warms, you feel the story drawing you into the heart of the winter night. Soon you will sleep as deeply as they do. But for now, you ponder what the cold truly demands, and why it resists with such plain, stubborn habit. Curled in the dim warmth, you catch your breath before realizing what fills the room. Smoke. It hovers in the air like a lazy visitor who never leaves, blinking through the soft haze. Your eyes sting slightly. In medieval cottages, smoke never truly dissipates. Tonight's chill is particularly stubborn. The chimney was no neat brick passage, but rather a rough hole in the rafters. The heat from the hearth rose upward, seeking an escape, yet most of it found nowhere to go. You sat up slowly, noticing the smoke had already permeated your hair. Every farmer you met tomorrow would share your scent. This smoky aroma was winter's common fragrance. The air carries distinct echoes of history. Houses from the early Middle Ages often lacked true chimneys, relying instead on roof holes or side vents for smoke clearance. Though these depended on favorable winds, on certain nights, the wind argues with man rather than aids him. Tonight is such a night. You rub your eyes with the back of your hand and watch wisps of smoke curl upward. They coiled around the beams, as if seeking warmth from the timber. The firelight struggled to break through the haze, scattering in the dimness and casting a dreamlike glow over the dwelling. You rose and moved towards the hearth, holding out your hands once more. The warmth felt as elusive as a fond memory, rather than the searing heat of a real flame. A soft cough sounded behind you, that same cough that had lingered throughout the winter, not frightening, merely familiar. You turned to survey the room. The wooden walls, warped or cracked, were entirely covered in a fine layer of soot. Everything here told the same story. This was not built to please guests, but to sustain life. You trace your fingers along the beam, your fingertips meeting the coarse grain weathered by years of smoke. The texture itself is history written in wood. You lift your cloak and walk towards the low bench by the back wall. Bundles of straw lean against it, bound with rope, reserved for bedding or to plug the cracks that open in the bitter winter cold. You give one bale a light tap. Dust swirls up. You sniff it, wrinkling your nose. Dust carrying a faint outdoor scent. The cold, damp smell of earth. For a moment, you doubt your lungs will ever be clean again. A detail surfaced in your memory. Villagers once believed placing a sprig of rosemary by the bed purified the smoky air. Whether it worked or not, that fresh scent did offer some small benefit. You caught sight of a small bundle of herbs hanging by the door. Perhaps tonight you should move it closer. The fire crackles softly, as if apologizing. The firelight dances across the faces in the room, and you see shadows blink awake as the flames shift. Is it your imagination? Those shadows seem utterly weary too. You pace back to the hearth and crouch down. The way the smoke stings your throat feels so familiar, like an old adversary appearing to remind you. You truly rules the winter. You pick up the small iron tongs and gently prod the embers. Soft sparks rise like raindrops, flickering briefly in the darkness before fading. The smoke overhead thickens abruptly. You lean back slightly and exhale. This dance is strangely comforting. Even though the flames constantly test your patience, you still depend on them. They are like a stubborn friend, knowing full well you cannot leave. You shift your body and look up. The roof beams above trace a triangle of shadow. A little smoke seeps through the cracks in the thatch, a few curls drooping down before suddenly changing direction and drifting sideways. You draw in a slow breath, letting your body rise and fall with the smoke. This place was not built for deep sleep, but for survival, and your body has long accepted this bargain. Your palm hovers over the fire once more, and now you try to imagine how many such nights your ancestors endured. Hundreds of winters, thousands of winters. The thought makes you chuckle softly. Farmers may lack warm dwellings, but strength is etched into their very bones. Historians still debate whether the smoke-filled air of farmhouses caused respiratory ailments, or if prolonged exposure somehow strengthened their lungs in peculiar ways. You wonder which fate your own body will choose. You slide back onto the straw mattress. The thick smoke weighs the air near the ceiling, while where you lie it grows much thinner. You sigh softly as you sink into the straw bedding. The floor beneath the thin mattress radiates chill. You adjust your cloak, letting it drape like a barrier at your side. The firelight paints the walls in shades of orange and red. You blink up at the ceiling, watching the smoke drift, forming and dissolving into phantom shapes. Smoke always makes the world seem smaller and quieter. The room's edges blurred, sounds softened, gentle murmurs. Your shoulders relaxed. Consciousness began to drift between sleep and wakefulness. Thoughts stretching like a weary cat. You shifted once more, seeking a more comfortable position on the straw. The prickling of the straw stalks had become almost familiar, even cherished. It was this very roughness that kept you acutely aware of your body, grounded in the present. You drew in a deep breath. The air carried the scent of wooden embers. Though not fresh, it was comfortingly familiar, and you let it fill your lungs. You allowed the breath to drift towards the smoke-filled curtain. You catch sight of someone by the door, wrapped in a thick woolen blanket, breathing slowly and evenly. That rhythm pulls you into weariness. The entire room seems to be yielding to the night. Outside the window, the sound of the wind shifts quietly, rippling the thatched roof. Cold air slips through the cracks in the rafters, momentarily pressing the smoke low. You draw the blanket tighter around your shoulders. The chill always seeks out cracks to invade, thinking itself coming. You breathe slowly, watching the flames fade into a gentle glow. The smoke now hangs still, suspended, disturbed only by your breath. You are learning to regard it as a companion. The weight of the day sinks into your limbs. Closing your eyes for a moment, you open them again, not fully asleep, yet drifting towards the edge of that stillness. Smoke swirls above you, like clouds upon a dim ceiling. Your toes feel the warmth of the hearth, while a chill creeps silently up your spine. This equilibrium captures the essence of a farmhouse winter night, imperfectly smoky, yet strangely tranquil once embraced. You burrow deeper beneath the covers, Draw your cloak tighter, and listen to the gentle cracking of the hearth as the smoky lullaby slowly sings. Shifting on the straw, you feel the coarse fibers adjust beneath you, thoughts drifting to the nightly ritual. Every medieval farmer knew it well, layering clothes not for comfort, but because the chill would seep into every crevice between fabric and bone. Reaching for the pile of garments prepared earlier, you already sense the temperature has dropped to a point where your breath condenses. You pick up the first woolen shirt, its worn cuffs and scattered patches bearing witness to your winter survival. Dragging it over your shoulders, you recall the old village priest's words by the hearth. Early genealogical records mention that peasants' clothing was far sparser than modern folk imagine, yet they mastered the art of layering, making a single garment work threefold. As you draw the garment tightly across your chest, warmth gradually gathers between the layers. Reaching for another piece, a patched shirt of linen in wool. It carries the scent of hearth fires mingled with the lingering sting of early icy winds. As you shake it out, a few strands of straw fall to the floor, and you smile softly. In the depths of winter, straw always finds its way into every nook and cranny. You pull the garment over your head, letting it slide down your body, adjusting the collar until it's just right. The weight of the fabric is reassuring, like a shield woven from countless stubborn threads. As you tuck the loose hem inside, a curious tale from the last market day suddenly surfaces in your mind. According to a wandering blacksmith, some households would stuff their winter colors and cuff tightly with old felt, or even scraps of rabbit fur. The image was oddly amusing, picturing the whole family shuffling along, swathed in their homemade insulation, the fabric rustling softly. With silent determination, you moved between the layers of clothing. Each garment was not merely fabric, but the sediment of time, the imprint of habit, a symbol of shelter. You smoothed the fabric against your skin, letting your breath warm the inside of the collar. The chill within the room remained close at hand, yet it no longer felt bone-piercing. Behind you, the hearth crackled, its light dancing across the floorboards. By the wool, someone drew a blanket tighter around themselves, letting out a deep sigh. It was the body's signal that the day was done. You mimicked the gesture, burrowing back into your bedding. The layers made you feel slightly cumbersome, yet it was a comforting weight, the reassurance of being wrapped in warmth. As you shifted position, you felt the chill seeping through the gap at your ankles. You drew your feet in, curling into a ball. The harsh winter favored the huddled from over the stretched limbs. You exhaled slowly, letting your breath dissipate in the smoke-filled room. Your fingers traced the fabric draped over your body, brushing worn seams. Those stitches crystallize hours of labor, someone once said, by dim light, weary eyes ensuring every thread served its purpose. You shift again, hands resting on your chest. Your thoughts linger on a phenomenon scholars occasionally note when studying contemporary rural life. Scholars debated was layering garments an instinctive act for peasants, or a fixed nightly ritual passed down from elders to children. With scant evidence, the argument persists in ancient texts. You smile at the thought of future historians disputing your present attire. A chill brushes your cheek, reminding you that no matter how many layers you wrap around yourself, the cold always lurks, waiting. You hunch your shoulders slightly, trapping warmth within. The flickering campfire draws your gaze. Its dancing light dances across the uneven wall, transforming the room into a living lantern. Shadows lengthen, vanish, then stretch once more. Everything seems fluid and languid. You reach for the last scrap of fabric, a square of woolen cloth, and gently wrap it around your neck. This small layer makes all the difference. Warmth settles in like a guest invited to stay the night. You breathe deeply, letting layer upon layer of warmth envelop your ribs. Clothing presses lightly against your skin, sturdy enough to assure its presence, yet soft enough to soothe body and mind as you relax. You stretch your fingers towards the fire until they grow numb, then withdraw them back into the layers, resting them upon your abdomen. The interplay of cold and warmth leaves a faint, pleasurable tingle. You feel yourself slowly taking root within the night. In the stillness, you recall a curious detail from earlier in the week. While laboring beside a frozen stream, an old woman, ancient house and families, during the harshest winters, would dry nettles and weave their fibers into undergarments for warmth. At first, it seemed implausible, yet properly treated dried nettle fibers could be surprisingly soft. The notion, with its rustic charm, lingered in your mind. You close your eyes, sinking into the layers of warmth enveloping you now. Behind you, the hearth crackles, smoke forming a soft veil over your senses. You turn your head slightly, seeking the corners where chill cannot penetrate. Your breath slows into a tranquil rhythm, each layer of fabric becoming a silent force guarding you through the long, cold night. Thoughts drift lazily from one scene to another. Snowfields under starlight, frost patterns crystallizing on the doorframe, the familiar weight of woolen fabric against your skin. You listen to the distant wind humming beneath the thatched roof, its soft vibration seeming to penetrate the walls and reach your very marrow. Despite the biting chill, you feel gently cradled within the small barrier you have built. Opening your eyes once more, you catch the flickering glow of embers in the low in a slung brazier. Your garments gradually warm, drawing heat from your body and holding it close. These layered clothes, though unadorned, remain steadfastly loyal. You burrow deeper into the bedding, still listening to the room's faint sounds. Everything slowed, softened, wrapped in warmth you've conjured from nothing. Wool, linen, and patience. You begin to sink into that sleep earned by habit of stillness. You feel the layers clinging to your skin, trapping every ounce of warmth. Yet your attention is drawn to the faint glow at the room's center. The hearth is your lifeline, your adversary, your elusive companion through every winter night. You sit up slightly, shoulders shrugging, your gaze fixed on the faint flicker within the stone hearth, pulsing like a weary heartbeat. The flames had grown low, not extinguished, merely resting. A few glowing embers flickered lazily, like an old friend opening its eyes to check you were still there. You moved closer, letting the warmth brush your cold feet. It wasn't enough to banish the chill from the room, but it was enough to remind you winter cannot devour everything. As you lean forward, memories surface from a lecture years ago. Ancient texts recount well-minus documented detail farmhouses relied not only on hearths for warmth, but also used their flickering light to mark time, the failing glow signifying the passage of hours, distinct as dawn breaking. Now the fire tells you it is time to settle for sleep, to guard the lingering embers, praying they might hold until daybreak. You reach for a small stick beside the hearth sign and gently stir the embers. The soft glow first swells then fades, sparks leaping upward in clusters like fireflies in a winter dream, brilliant yet fleeting. Smoke condenses in the space of a heartbeat. You lean back, closing your eyes against the acrid sting. Navigating through smoke is a skill every villager learns in childhood. Though uncomfortable, it has become routine. That stubborn familiarity is strangely comforting. You pull your cloak tighter, rubbing your hands until your palms grow warm. The hearth crackles, as if echoing your movements. It is a gentle sound, subtle and reassuring. You regard it as your nightly companion, striving to the utmost even if it cannot work miracles. Your thoughts drift to a fragment overheard last week in the spinning room. An old spinner, fond of curious tales, mentioned that some households hung polished pebbles above their hearths. Legend held these stones absorbed heat by day, releasing warmth at night. Though you doubted the science behind it, the image remained etched in your mind. The faint glow flickering in the dark warmed the glue, and there was something deeply moving about such simple warmth. You shifted forward, pressing your palms close to the embers once more. Warmth spread through your fingertips, melting the stiffness in your joints. You let out a soft sigh. The room gradually sinks into the night's rhythm. The cold presses against the walls, making them creak. The low groan of the roof causes the thatch to tremble. Behind you, someone shifts their bedding, their movements slow and languid. The entire space seems to come alive, breathing with you, creaking with you, trembling with you. The firelight casts long shadows upon the hard earthen floor. Your gaze follows those outlines, letting your thoughts drift with the shifting shadows. You have always cherished this candlelight, for it softens the edges of all things. Even the rough walls now appear gentle, bathed in a halo of golden and crimson light. You tilt your head back slightly, letting the warmth caress your chin. You ponder how the hearth fire has altered your perception of the night. Without it, winter descends like a silent hunter. With it, darkness ceases to be frightening, becoming instead a thick, heavy blanket, waiting to envelop you in its embrace. Scholars of medieval life often note that for peasant folk, the hearth served not merely as a practical tool, but as an anchor for the soul. Now you grasped this truth profoundly. The flames offered not just warmth, but a symbol of security. You reached for a slender piece of kindling, weighing it in your palm. You felt its lightness and dryness perfect for kindling. After a moment's thought, you place it gently upon the waiting embers. The wood does not ignite immediately. Its edges darken slightly, hesitating for a moment. Then a slender flame creeps upwards. Like a timid whisper, you breathe a sigh of relief. Even the faintest spark feels like a victory. The flickering flame adds but a touch of warmth to the room, yet you feel it. Waves of heat thread through the air, eventually encircling your form. Closing your eyes, you let the subtle warmth caress your cheeks. A smile touches your lips, not because the flame burns fiercely, but because it lives, and that alone is enough. You curl your toes towards the heat, shifting gently. A sensation slowly returns. As you shift your body on the straw mattress, the familiar rustling resounds once more. The hearth fire flares suddenly, revealing the cluttered corner piled high with tools. Everything here depended on the fire. Food, water, warmth, rest. Without it, you were but a shivering shell wrapped in heavy garments. You drew in a slow breath, watching the smoke curl up towards the beam. It drifted with a strange grace, like ribbons unfurling in a dream. Your thoughts drift back to the scholarly debate you overheard in the market tavern. Experts argued over how often farmhouses kept fires burning through the night, and whether families relied solely on embers for warmth, or if someone tended the flames all night. The notion lingered. You imagined some ancient villager sitting where you now stood, poking at the coals with a muttered complaint before pulling their woolen blanket tighter. The hearth suddenly crackled, a spark leaping towards the mantel's edge. You shivered slightly, then leaned forward to flick the ember back into the embers with tongs, watching it dissolve among the coals, merging into the faint glow of other charred grains. You chuckled softly and shook your head. Even a slumbering fire has its temper. You adjust your garments once more, feeling the warmth slowly rising between the fabric and your skin, and glance around. The firelight skims the faces of those sleeping nearby, warming one cheek while the other sinks into shadow. The gentle rhythm of their breathing intertwines with the low murmur of the crackling wood, such rugged tranquility, like a lullaby sung by wind and fire. Turning your back to the hearth, you walk towards the bedding. The firelight watches over you like a gentle guardian as you slowly sink into the straw mattress, curling sideways. Warmth caresses the top of your foot. This warmth won't last long, but such is the nature of winter nights. You soak it in while you can, arms wrapped around yourself. You feel the steady weight of layers upon layers of clothing. You listen to the fire sigh, the embers shift, the cold night pressing its icy fingers against the wall outside, and yet you feel safe. You let the soft glow guide your breath, gradually sinking into a steady rhythm. Thoughts soften. They drift and coil like smoke above your head. Embers become a hazy warmth beneath your eyes. You burrow deeper into the bedding, letting the lingering heat seep into your bones. Tonight the fire is faint, yet it is yours alone. That faint glow is enough to guide you into the soft edge of sleep. You sink into the straw bed, watching the firelight wane to a trembling flicker, your thoughts drifting to the outline beneath you. This is not the bed you knew today, with no feather springs or soft quilting, only a compacted earthen platform, slightly raised above the ground. Even the poorest villager understands that the earth steals warmth like an insomniac thief. You shift slightly, feeling the firmness beneath your hips, allowing yourself to sink into this rough familiarity. This sleeping place is far more than mere earth. It is a deliberate construction, repeatedly compacted with wooden mullets, smoothed over generations by the bodies of those who rested upon it. It holds a silent, practical wisdom, and you begin to appreciate the solid support it offers. Early village records note these low platforms served as work bonskis by day, transforming into sleeping platforms at night. Your fingertips trace the compacted earth, sensing the subtle ridges and furrows etched by time. You pull your cloak tighter, smoothing the bedding of straw anew. A few prickly stalks jab your ribs, prompting another adjustment to find comfort. Beneath you, the straw creaks softly, creating a simple lullaby for sleep. The fire's glow casts a hazy light upon this corner, draping the mattress in a warm, soft glow that makes the earthen bed appear almost cozy. Your thoughts drift to the shepherd's tales of his return journey. He claimed that in the depths of winter, some villagers would spread a thin layer of dried verbena leaves upon their sleeping mats, believing this to retain warmth better than ordinary straw. You chuckle softly, finding the notion rather odd. Beneath the bedding, soft leaves from a secret layer of comfort known only to the sleeper. You stretched your legs between the layers of fabric, feeling the earth's even support beneath your weight. Such stability calmed the spirit, as if the earth itself held you steady, defying the winter chill that sought to bite at your skin. You shifted position, listening to the symphony of the crackling fire and the wind's low murmur against the walls. The cold outside assaults relentlessly, yet upon this bed you feel as steady as a rock. Running your hand over the compacted surface once more, you discern the varied textures of different sections. Some areas are smooth from years of pressure, others rough from repairs or newly added layers of earth. You draw in a slow breath, letting the scent of tobacco and straw permeate your senses. Though a humble shelter, it is your domain for the night. Imbued with a quiet dignity, you shift your shoulders, curling into a comfortable position. Layers of clothing provide warmth, yet the earth beneath still carries winter's chill, pulling your knees tightly to your chest. You wrap the blanket around them. The chill always creeps in first at the lower edge of the bed, and you know instinctively how to ward it off. These habits have been honed over countless nights. A quiet thought surfaces, stemming from a discussion you once overheard at a harvest gathering. Historians still debate whether these raised platforms were deliberately shaped for warmth or simply formed naturally by the repeated imprints of human bodies over time. The thought that generations had unknowingly sculpted this shelter, with their weight now held as strange poetry. You felt an unexpected connection to them, pressing your palm into the earth. You felt the solidity beneath the thin layer of straw. Imagine countless hands compacting this earth over long ages. This bed is no luxury, yet it is a shared inheritance. Its story flows beneath your skin. You adjust the quilt once more, pulling it up to your chin. The hearth emits a faint hiss as a small ember sparks and leaps. The air in the room cools gradually, making you more aware of the heat gathering within your body. The earth absorbs some of the warmth, but not all. Enough remains within you, offering comfort. Your gaze drifts upward to the low beams, then falls back to the straw beside you. You shift gently, carving out a softer nest in the corner of the platform. The straw rustles with your movement, adding a new note to the room's quiet soundscape. In the opposite corner, someone shifts too, perhaps seeking warmth as you do. Your breathing slows. The compacted earth beneath your feet is steady as a mountain, unyielding yet bearing your weight. You allow your body to sink into it, letting this solidity cradle your spine with unexpected gentleness. Closing your eyes for a moment, you imagine the chill outside retreating slightly. The walls trembled with each gust, yet your platform remained steadfast. The boundary between yourself and the earth blurred, as if you were sharing its very warmth. It was a primal comfort, yet undeniably real. You burrowed deeper into the straw, drawing the blanket closer to your shoulders. Beneath you, the earth offered its unadorned, steadfast support. Your breath gradually merges with the whisper of the breeze outside the window and the cracking of the embers in the hearth. As the night settles, you are not only wrapped in fabric and straw, but also enveloped by the quiet resilience passed down by those accustomed to sleeping on the ground, who regard the earth as their home. Warmth gradually gathers in your chest, your thoughts soften, and your body relaxes completely. Upon this humble platform of earth and straw, you drift towards the realm of dreams. You pull the blanket up a little, feeling the coolness nibble at your ankles, then sink your palms into the bed of straw beneath you. The chaff rustles like dry paper, shifting beneath your weight, like restless creatures seeking to settle into the night. You grasp a handful of straw, letting it slip through your fingers. Its texture is coarse and uneven, dotted with tiny seeds that cling to your skin. This is your mattress. It shields you from the biting chill rising from the earth. You lie on your side, pressing your palm firmly into the straw mattress. The straw yields slightly, reshaping itself into a shallow cradle that cradles your hips. It is neither soft nor luxurious, yet this simple sincerity is strangely reassuring. The inventory records of ancient villages often note those of means must replace their straw bedding several times a year, especially after the damp season when mold threatens to take hold. You shift slightly, grateful your bed is so dry tonight, a sign your family prepared thoroughly before winter's grip tightened. You lift the edge of the bedding to let air pass through, and the straw plumps up. Dust stirred by the motion flickered briefly in the dim firelight. A quiet cough escaped your sleeve, yet the familiar tickle in your throat drew a smile. This ritual of fluffing the straw mattress seemed insignificant, yet every villager understood it determined whether the night would bring restful sleep or stubborn aches by dawn. As you tidy the mattress, you recall a curious tale mentioned by a passing herbalist. She claimed some households tuck dried mint stems into their straw mattresses, both to repel insects and to release a delicate fragrance that mingles with the smoky scent of the hearth. By your standards, this seemed almost extravagant, and you couldn't help but imagine the sensation of a mint minus scented mat on a cold night. Yet the straw mat beneath your feet carried only the familiar sense of the barn and winter farmhouse, not fresh, but deeply familiar. You stretch your legs once more, the texture beneath your calves shifting between prickly and soft as you move. Each shift of the patchwork minus like matting alters its feel. You pull the blanket up over you, curling into a ball. Your fingers inadvertently brush the mat's edge, detecting the freshness of newly added straw while the aged fibers begin to break down into finer strands. You can tell someone recently added new straw. Those gleaming tufts reveal the truth. A silent thought surfaces, stemming from a conversation overheard last autumn in the monastery courtyard. Researchers debating medieval peasant life argued, did they deliberately arrange straw into patterns for comfort? Or did bedding simply take shape naturally over years of nightly tossing and turning? Historical records are hazy, surviving notes mere fragments. Glancing down at your own bedding, you couldn't help but smile. Future scholars might well debate your sleeping habits. Yet for now you were solely concerned with keeping your toes warm. You shifted position once more, propping your arm beneath your head. The straw beneath your shoulder emitted a soft sigh. Scratching sounds from behind the wall remind you of the rodents longing for the bedding beneath you. You pull the quilt tighter, guarding against any bold midnight visitor seeking company. Your gaze drifts to the narrow window slit, where a sliver of moonlight, like a thin blade, slips in, lightly touching the mattress at your feet. You notice the fine straw glimmering faintly in the dark, like specks of gold in the silent night. The scent of straw mingles with lingering smoke and the clean, woolen fragrance of your clothes, weaving a simple, comforting aroma that somehow soothes the soul. You curl into a sideways position, pulling your knees closer to your chest. Beneath you, the straw crackled softly, gradually molding into a nest that conformed to your body's contours, as if cocooned in warmth. You rested your cheek against your forearm, letting your breath settle into a slow, steady rhythm. The persistent rustling of the straw was soothing. Even its rough texture felt perfectly suited to this night. Memories surfaced. Earlier this week, the older villagers had gathered around the communal of undiscussing winter customs. One particularly wrinkled old woman laughed with a crisp, clear sound as she recalled a family she knew in her youth. They would comb their straw mattresses with a real wooden rake every few nights, just to keep their beds fluffy and soft. The others teased her for such fanciful recollections, yet the image of someone raking a mattress lingered stubbornly in your mind. Now picturing it, you nearly chuckled aloud. Mattresses requiring grooming, yet the more you pondered it, the more practical the notion seemed. You slid your palms over the mattress once more, seeking out hard lumps and stubborn creases. With your fingertips, you parted one such spot, smoothing the straw into a softer shape. As your body heat gradually seeped, and the mattress grew faintly warm, you sensed a subtle shift. The straw had plumped out just right, gently cradling you in its embrace. As night deepened, your eyelids grew heavier. The hearth fire crackled softly, its gentle echoes drifting through the room. A few embers fell into the hearth, making a faint sound like footsteps fading into the distance. Though the walls remained still, you sensed the house shifting gently with drowsiness. As if settling its own weight for the night, you shift with it, allowing the straw to cradle your body without resistance. A cool breeze slips in by the window, brushing lightly against your cheek. You burrow deeper into the bedding, letting warm frisand envelop your shoulders. The bedding rustles softly, like summer wheat whispering in the breeze. Closing your eyes, you picture fields swaying in sunlight, the warm wind brimming with life. This comfort surpasses expectation. Thoughts drift with the quiet senses, the straw beneath you, the warmth of layered garments, the slow embers of the hearth fire, the faint tremor of winter wind tapping the walls, all blends into a gentle rhythm, cradling you into the long night. Breaths grow deeper, muscles relax, and the dry grass proves surprisingly firm beneath your weight. As drowsiness crept upon you, a flutter of wonder stirred at this humble bedding. These simple, unadorned stalks gathered from the fields made all the difference between a restless night and peaceful slumber. When you curled into the most comfortable position, the straw rustled softly. Thoughts gradually fell silent. The room grows hazy. In the soft cradle of the winter's straw mattress, you drift towards sleep. You lie still for a long while, feeling warmth seep through layer upon layer of clothing and the straw beneath you. Almost without noticing, you become aware of a familiar rhythm, the one that shapes every winter night in these cottages. Sleep did not come all at once, but in two long waves: the first rest, the waking, then the descent back into slumber. You shifted your legs slightly, adjusted the blanket on your shoulders, and gazed at the quiet room with renewed anticipation. You understood this pattern intimately, though no one had ever spoken it aloud. Your breathing steadies, and you sink deeper beneath the covers. The hearth crackles softly amidst the murmuring embers. Within the room, faint snores emerge, mingling with unconscious murmurs. A lazy smile touches your lip. This is the beginning of the first sleep, that familiar state of drifting slowly into darkness known to all villagers. Ancient medical texts record that interrupted sleep was regarded as natural, even beneficial. Many households viewed the waking period between sleep segments as an opportunity for quiet reflection or prayer. You pondered how alien this scene must seem to those accustomed to sleeping soundly through the night. You adjust your cloak, feeling the warmth rising beneath layers of clothing. Eyelids grow heavy. The crackling of the hearth fire fades into a low hum. You relax your shoulders, letting them sink into the bedding. A chill still creeps across the floorboards, nibbling at your toes. yet it no longer feels threatening. It is simply part of the night. Thoughts soften, drifting aimlessly through memory. As you hover on the edge of sleep, a peculiar detail from a conversation earlier this month surfaces. The hunter had sworn that certain villagers kept small wooden figurines by their bed, praying for dreams of warmth and good fortune at the onset of slumber. It sounded superstitious. Yet now, picturing that little statue, you found strange comfort in the notion of a small guardian watching over the night. Breaths grew deeper, body heavier. The room faded into a haze of sound and shadow. You floated lightly, sinking into the embrace of first sleep. As if cradled by its silent arms, the hearth fire sighs intermittently, while dreams gather quietly from the corners of consciousness. Some dreams are rooted in the rhythms of the seasons, the glimmer of frost flowers, the whisper of distant streams, the scent of warm bread from long Linus forgotten feasts. Then the shackles of first sleep suddenly loosen. You open your eyes to a hazy glow, yet feel no alarm. This nocturnal pause is but a commonplace, a natural rhythm of winter's repose. The entire cottage seems to breathe in unison with you, dwelling still in the realm of dreams between wakefulness and slumber. Questions often pondered by historians of daily life linger in your mind. Did medieval households treasure these lucid intervals for conversation or labor, or did they simply accept the silence? Ancient texts offer no definitive answer. Each household surely had its own. You shifted carefully, wary of the chill creeping in. The straw beneath you rustled softly, releasing a faint scent of hay mingled with smoke. Pulling the quilt up to your chin, you lay on your bed, gazing at the low Linus hanging beamed. A sliver of moonlight arched across the beam, illuminating patches of frost that glimmered faintly like powdered glass. This sight calmed your spirit, as if the outside world had deliberately paused for a moment, solely to allow you to appreciate the scene. A slight sound broke the silence. Someone coughed softly before drifting back to sleep. Another murmured unfinished phrase and rolled over. Awake, you are no longer alone. Consciousness drifts between wakefulness and slumber. Neither fully alert nor utterly asleep, you revel in this fleeting liminal state. A tranquil island where the chill cannot penetrate the depths of your thoughts. You gently rub your hands together, feeling warmth return to your palms. Beneath the covers, you adjust your feet, curling your toes to stir the pooled warmth. The fire flickers faintly in the corner, like a watchman too weary to blaze fiercely yet stubbornly refusing to die. You listen to its rising and falling breaths. This sound soothes your renewed weariness, and your thoughts drift once more, boundless as snowflakes carried by a gentle breeze. You recall the words of a visiting scholar last spring. At a small gathering, he mentioned ancient text describing how farmers would often inspect their livestock, tend the hearth fires, or whisper secrets belonging only to the night at this hour. You picture those scenes, hushed whispers by the hearth, tender lullabies, a few strands of secrets too shy to see the light. Closing your eyes once more, you let warm breath gather beneath the covers. Your thoughts grow lighter, the stillness deepens, and silence seeps like water between your ribs. Settling there, you feel the subtle pull of a second sleep, like a warm tide flowing slowly through your thoughts. All things soften in its flow. You draw one final, long breath, long enough to feel your chest rise and fall in the dim air. Silence enveloped you like a cocoon. The hearth crackles softly, as if granting permission. You curl onto your side, seeking the warm hollow your body left behind. The straw nestles closer, cradling you with its familiar rustle. Your limbs grow heavy once more, falling into the deeper promise of repose. You slip lightly into the second sleep, layered within the earth's embrace, the faint heartbeat of the stove adding warmth to the bed. The night effortlessly carries you, guiding you back into dreams woven from winter firelight and the steady rhythm of a medieval world. You sink deeper into the bedding, allowing the second sleep to gently guide your senses. Yet before it fully settles, you sense a shift in the warmth around you, a subtle change, a soft presence, a familiar weight pressing against your back. It is not an extra blanket, but a person, then another, and another. Bodies draw closer, coalescing into a symbiotic nest of warmth no single soul could create alone. It did not strike you as strange, for families living for survival rather than comfort. Winter nights were meant to be thus. You shifted slightly, making room for the small elbow resting lightly against your ribs. A child curled beside your knee, toes gently brushing your ankle. The surrounding breaths pulsed steadily like tiny flames, each inhale and exhale nourishing the collective warmth. Country chronicles often note, families huddling together is not for affection, but because shared warmth determines whether a cold night passes peacefully or precariously. Now you grasp this truth through the rising warmth. Now you adjust the quilt, draping it over the shoulders of the person closest to you. The strong mattress rustles softly as bodies shift weight, shifting from supporting one too many. This is no perfect arrangement. Knees bump, elbows shift, the quilt pulls askew, yet somehow it grows comfortable. A hive of silent, shared breathing. The fire's light fades, tracing the figures around you into soft outlines and golden halos. You gaze for a moment, noticing how the dim light lingers upon faces, skimming cheekbones, brushing hair, finally dissolving into shadow. A half-minded asleep person murmurs softly. You cannot make out the indistinct words, only hear them drift back into slumber. So close, every sound becomes intimate. You curled your arms across your chest, guarding the space with quiet care. A hand seeking warmth, in sleep, touched your shoulder, lingering gently. You smiled languidly. You had long grown accustomed to these nocturnal collisions of bodies. When winter's bite was sharpest, personal boundaries shrank. Warmth became a shared resource rather than a private luxury. You recall words spoken by an elder who'd weathered countless winters. She'd shared a trick her grandparents taught her, a warmth in communal sleeping bags wrapping a woolen cloak around everyone like a shared cocoon, creating compartments that trapped heat until dawn. Now you revisit that memory, picturing fabric and folding them into a giant nest. You shift your legs slightly, and the child beside you instinctively draws closer, pressing their back firmly against your thigh. The surge of warmth rising from them is surprisingly intense. You gently stroke their shoulder, feeling the soft rise and fall of their breath. This touch relaxes your own body. Outside, the cold wind slaps against the shutters once more, its long, sighing roar making the walls tremble. At this moment, you scarcely feel the chill. The collective warmth of their bodies weaves a silent barrier, keeping the biting cold at bay. You bury your chin deeper into the bedding, listening to the soft chorus of surrounding breaths, deep rapid, occasional soft snore, weaving a web in the darkness. You recall a question often debated in family life studies: did these nightly, huddled sleeping positions deepen emotional bonds, or did they complicate relationships? Hard evidence was scarce, existing only in fragments of letters and country tales. You suspected the truth lay somewhere between intimacy nurtured warmth, yet also bred friction. But on nights like this, everyone seemed to feel gratitude, even if none spoke it aloud. You tilt your head slightly, feeling the warm breath of the sleeper behind you. That presence anchors you, steady and secure. Closing your eyes, you let the rhythm lull you gently to sleep. Warmth rises like a tide, encircling your ribs. Your fingertips relax, your shoulders release their tension, and the anxieties of the cold night gradually fade. As all settled into rest, the straw mattress shifted once more. Someone turned, stirring the bedding. You felt a wisp of cold air seep in as you rolled, swiftly covering the gap with your cloak. Within a few breaths, warmth filled the space again. Bodies naturally pressed together, an instinctive, almost unconscious harmony. A child giggled softly in their sleep, and you smiled into the darkness. On a winter night, the presence of others offers a comfort you could never find in solitary sleep. You feel sheltered, part of a small, warm community, bound together by necessity, yet also by a tender will to protect one another in the coldest hour. You draw a deep breath, the warmth of wool mingling with lingering smoke, enveloping you in slow tranquility. The fire flickers faintly, but it matters little. The surrounding bodies radiate enough heat to make the night bearable. You briefly recall summer nights, when sleeping apart was possible, even pleasant. But winter has taken that choice away. Winter turns humans into tiny constellations sharing warmth. A soft north suddenly reaches your ear, startling you momentarily before fading back into the background. You chuckle silently, then relax once more. Your body curls deeper among the others. The storm atlas molds to your shape, yielding where needed, supporting where required. Your eyelids grow heavy, the world shrinking into a quiet warmth. The surrounding breaths become a gentle lullaby. You let the warmth seep into your bones, melting the last remnants of chill from your skin. You feel yourself edging towards the threshold of sleep, wrapped in the blanket of intertwined limbs and shared breath. You surrender to the collective warmth. The night embraces you tenderly, and the second sleep begins to pull you into the depths of soft light. You pause briefly amidst the intertwined warmth, your breathing slowing as another kind of warmth seeps into your consciousness. A wave of heat. This time, it is not the warmth of human bodies, but an entirely different current of warmth. A steady, constant warmth emanating from the other side of the cottage wall. You shift slightly, your palm brushing the floor to sense that warmth once more. A faint thermal pulse permeates the wooden beams and rammed earth walls. You know precisely where it originates. The stable lies on the other side. You inhale deeply, catching the faint, permeable scent of animals through the walls. Hedon, warm fur mingling with the winter air. It isn't unpleasant at night, merely familiar. Early farmstead accounts mention how many medieval cottages were built adjacent to small barns, allowing the livestock's warmth to seep into the living quarters during winter. Now you feel this warmth seeping into your very bones. The animals know not that they age or sleep, yet their body heat proves as dependable as the fire you tend by your hearth. You shift silently closer to the wall, careful not to disturb your slumbering companions. This warmth is delicate and gentle, lingering like the embers of a slow fire, more reassuring than the fading coals in your own hearth. Closing your eyes, you picture the herd resting for the night, their massive forms like reservoirs of heat, exhaling slow, rising vapors in the dim shed. The faint, persistent rustle of hooves shifting through straw offers comfort, nearly as warm as the body heat behind you. Beside you, someone stirs, pulling the blanket over both of you. Straw rustles, a small hoof presses against your calf, eyes tightly shut. You let the animal's warmth permeate the wool, encircling your shoulders like protective hands. A peculiar remedy, once shared by an old coachman, flashes through your mind in the harshest winters. Some families would sleep directly in makeshift lofts above stable, allowing the animal's rising heat to envelop them. You picture yourself curled above slumbering cattle. Though absurd, it feels in tune with nature. Warmth is warmth, regardless of its source. The walls transmit the gentle rhythm of shifting weight. The livestock are adjusting their sleep positions, perhaps nudging straw with their muzzles or stamping hooves in drowsy rhythm. The vibrations permeate the cottage's wooden frame, faint enough to merge with your own heartbeat. You find yourself sinking into this rhythm, your breaths lengthening until all becomes one gentle pulse. You curl your fingers along the floorboards, letting the earthenware absorb your body heat while returning a little warmth from the stable. Knowing the animals were, they brought a sense of security. These creatures never complained of the cold, merely breathing, eating, resting, quietly waiting for the night to pass. A calm spread through you, with the silent herd guarding the other side of the wall. The winter seemed less formidable. You adjusted your legs beneath the quilt, ensuring the cold draft could not invade. Silence reigns within the house, broken only by the occasional rustle of straw and the distant murmurs of livestock. The hearth fire is nearly spent, leaving only a few faint red embers in the fireplace, too weary to offer more than a wisp of warmth. Yet this troubles you not. The wall beside you feels like a vast, living furnace, steadily and patiently warming the night without a flicker. High thought surfaces, stemming from tales heard at harvest feast. Scholars of early agrarian life often debate, did farmers deliberately plan dwellings to absorb livestock's residual warmth, or did such layouts arise purely from survival's urgency and spatial constraints? You imagine clusters of houses built close to livestocks impede for lack of space. This accident of circumstance transforming into an advantage during winter's grip. The truth likely lay somewhere between design and necessity. As warmth spread through your limbs, your breathing deepened. You turned your thoughts once more to the creatures beyond the walls. Their silent presence. The cattle emitted a heavy sigh, its sound waves transforming into soft vibrations reaching your ears. A faint smile touched your lips, even in this half-minor sleep. They seemed to whisper that all was well. The long night, though long, remained bearable. You reclined, gazing up the ceiling. The smoke-minor stained beams deepen in hue, strands of straw clinging to the rafters, likely flung there during the day's labor. The dying embers cast a faint glow, outlining the ceiling's contours and bathing the room in a soft, dreamlike haze. Thoughts drift with the shadows as your eyelids grow heavy. Beside you, someone mutters indisticently before sinking back into sleep, their forehead resting lightly against your shoulder. The warmth of the sleepers mingles with the stable's heat, weaving a cozy little world, compared to the biting cold outside. Such comfort feels almost extravagant. You exhale slowly, your chest fully relaxing. Your body is now perfectly prepared for sleep. A warm sanctuary, the rhythm of a companion's breath, the steady undulation of air all around. The wall beside you creaks softly as some animal shifts its body. You picture it turning in the hay, swishing its tail once before settling back down. Such intimacy feels almost like a lullaby. Large creatures breathing in the darkness, unknowingly sharing their warmth. You burrow deeper into the bedding, pulling the blanket up over your ears. The tangible sense of family surrounding you is reassuring. You feel their warmth mingling with the stable's heat, until the air around you becomes a small refuge against the cold night. The room grows soft and still, filled only by the slow breathing from both sides of the wall and the faint rustle of straw. Your eyelids grow heavy, your limbs gradually weighty. Warmth envelops you, smoothing away the earlier chill that had settled deep in your bones. Thoughts drift aimlessly through memories of fields, livestock, and the labors of daylight. They unravel in your mind like ribbons, dissolving into indescribable soft contours. A final sigh echoes from the stable's depths, deep and soothing, like a giant smoothing the darkness. You smile one last time beneath the blankets. All is steady, all is well. Warmth embraced you from both sides, your body finally shedding its last defenses. Enveloped by the silent warmth of family and livestock, you sank into a profound stillness unique to medieval winter nights. As you drifted through warmth, wrapped in layers of breath and bedding, your ears began to catch the tapestry of sounds woven by the medieval winter night. At first, only silent, a thick, soft stillness, crisp as the frost outside the window. Then the silence rippled, and faint sounds slipped into consciousness. Each cottage has its own breathing rhythm, and tonight your dwelling seems filled with whispers waiting to be heard. You blink slowly, gazing at the faint glow of dying embers. The hearth crackled softly. It sounds so gentle, it seemed dreamlike. Bodies shifted restlessly in their sleep, one emitting a faint quivering breath through their nostril. Another murmured lowly, perhaps conversing with someone in their dreams. You smiled at the darkness, your awakening curiosity gently tugging at you. Your gaze drifts upward to the low rafters, where a faint scratching sound makes you raise an eyebrow. Perhaps a mouse or a small bird. This tiny creature is exploring the roof, seeking shelter from the cold. In records of rural daily life, observers often note, however humble the dwelling, It functions like a miniature ecosystem, allowing animals and humans to weather the winter together. Now you perceive this truth through the light scratching above your head. You shift slightly, rearranging the blanket draped over your shoulders. The straw beneath you rustles with each movement, its crisp sound mingling with the melting frost dripping from the thatched roof. You listen as the dripping slows and ceases, transforming into the soft hum of wind across the tiles. The cottage responds with a low creak, as if sighing at the encroaching chill from outside. You let your senses continue to roam, capturing the faintest sounds. From the stable wall beside you comes the soft murmuring of animals. Sleeping cattle exhale, creating gentle echoes between the planks. Chickens shifted upon their perches, their claws making a faint clicking sound upon the bedding. These small sounds were so steady and reassuring, reminding you that even in the depths of winter, life never fully retreats, only grows quieter. A distant dog's bark echoed beyond the cottage wall. The neighbor's guard dog's cry briefly pierced the stillness before silence reclaimed the night. The sound sent a faint tremor through your arm, not fear, but a reminder that the village, in its own way, remained awake. Each household had its own sounds, its own heartbeat. You turn your head slightly, hearing the gentle snoring of an elder nearby. That breathing, like a slow pulse, synchronizes your own breath. The folds of the quilt shift softly as they turn, the fabric rustling low against the wall. This familiar sound brings you a strange sense of peace. Another sound reaches your ears, a faint tapping. You strain to listen, and after a moment discern it is the shutters tapping lightly in the wind. Though securely bolted, the chill causes the wood to bend slightly, producing a soft, intermittent sound. This repetitive rhythm offers a small comfort, like the beat of a drum sleeping in the night, marking the passage of time. Your thoughts drift back to a banquet where an elderly storyteller once claimed if one listens long enough, every sound of a winter night holds meaning. He insisted a particular creak in the rafters foretold an approaching storm, while the rustling of small creatures near the roof signaled shifting weather. You recall this scene with a faint smile, unsure whether his words held truth, or if he merely revelled in the sound of his own storytelling. Now you almost see him gesturing inimitedly by the fire, declaring he could predict no fall by the hooting of distant owls. You hold your breath, hoping to hear your own owl's call. A minute passed, then two. The air remained still, until, through the chill, a faint, tremulous cry reached you, distant, almost inaudible. Yet it stirred a warm resonance within your chest. You wonder privately whether the storyteller, were he present, might offer a knowing smile. A question occasionally raised in studies of rural soundscapes crosses your mind. Some scholars seek to understand, how do people sleep when noise fills both indoors and out? Are these sounds comfort or disturbance? Have people grown accustomed to them? Or do they interpret each sound as a message from the world beyond the village? Now, lying here, you listen to the layered whispers of stillness and realize the truth lies in their interplay. Some sounds soothe the soul, some carry warnings, while most simply exist. As the wind murmurs again outside the window, you draw the quilt tightly across your chest. That sound, like a long, weary sigh gliding across frozen fields, makes you imagine it carrying snowflakes and dust across fences and cottages. The wind is a singer, and tonight its song is gentle. The sleeper beside you murmurs softly, perhaps the echo of a family name, perhaps a fragment of a dream. You feel their warm breath brush your arm. Far up, someone shifts heavily, the straw mattress rippling beneath the crowd. Then comes a low, sharp cough in sleep. You draw in slowly, letting the sound soak into your being. Every subtle movement becomes a note in winter's quiet symphony. You listen to the hiss of your own inhalation, then the warm breath that slowly spreads beneath the covers. Your heartbeat merges with this rhythm, steady and tranquil. Thoughts drift once more, yet are gently guided by the surrounding sounds. A faint tapping comes from the thatched roof. You open your eyes. It is not rain, but frost loosening, melting into crystalline fragments, sliding down the ridge. The sound is soft, like distant footsteps drilling upon thin ground. You let it soothe your spirit, imagining the frost melting in the room's gentle warmth. Now you close your eyes completely, allowing the tapestry of night sounds to anchor you firmly. The crackling of embers, the rustling of straw, the whisper of wind, the animal sighs echoing between walls, the soft rustle of sleepers turning. This is the symphony of winter nights, played for centuries, enveloping its listeners in soft, sheltering sound. Your breath grows deeper, the sounds recede, warmth cocooning you. As consciousness softens, you find yourself drifting back into slumber, lying still, carried by the tranquil melody of a medieval night. You let the soft waves of sound fade into the background, yet your thoughts drifted to things every medieval villager understood instinctively. The folk remedies, handy tips, and handmade comforts that helped people endure the bitter cold. As the room sank into midnight stillness, you shifted your body and reached for the small cloth pouch by your bedside. Inside lay dried herbs gathered before winter's arrival. You untied the knot, inhaling the faint earthy fragrance rising from within. The scent was gentle and familiar, like a summer whisper preserved within withered leaves. You crushed a pinch of herbs, inhaled deeply once more, letting the aroma warm your senses. According to ancient family manuals, farmers often relied on simple herbal remedies to ease winter discomforts, especially when sleep proved elusive. These herbs are no magic, yet their fragrance soothes the spirit. Already you feel this calm spreading within you. You close the pouch and tuck it back beneath the quilts. As you lie down again, the lingering warmth of your fingertips remains upon the woolen fabric. A breeze flits beneath the door, and you shiver, pulling the quilt higher. The chill attempts to invade, but the small ritual of the herbs has erected a thin, warm barrier within your heart. Your thoughts drift to that peculiar conversation at the autumn market. A cheerful brewer claimed some villagers firmly believed drinking warm ale before bed brought deeper sleep and sweeter dreams. You had laughed at his overzealousness, yet tonight, imagining the taste of that warm drink, a flicker of longing stirred within you. Sometimes, warmth hides in the most ordinary corners. Lying on your back, your gaze drifted through the dim room. The faint glow of embers peered like sleepy eyes in the darkness. You listened to the steady breathing around you, the warmth of human bodies mingling with the fading scent of herbs. Your senses begin to relax. You curl your toes beneath the quilt's edge, feeling the chill lurking beyond the layers of bedding. Nights like this always awaken the little family secrets passed down through generations. You recall the plump baker's secret recipe shared when exchanging flaxseed s. She insisted that rubbing warm butter onto the soles of your feet before sleep locks in the body's warmth. You hadn't believed her then, but now you understand. It's these small rituals that make winter bearable. You tuck your hands beneath the covers and rub them together, letting friction and fabric build warmth in your palms. The heat spreads through your fingertips, banishing the stiffness that winter often brings to your joints. Beside you, someone turns and murmurs, pulling you back into the quiet room. You watch the faint undulations of a chest beneath the covers, breathing gradually settling into calm. A fragment of commentary from the monk's mottled manuscript drifts through your mind like a slow current of thought. What intrigues scholars is this: to what extent do these winter squares truly aid farmers' slumber? Or is it the very act of belief that holds the key? Written records are scarce. You imagine some future scholar squinting at faint ink on a discarded notebook, wondering whether farmers truly sleep more soundly after inhaling thyme or sipping warm mead. You chuckled softly, feeling the warmth of the herb pouch beside you. Perhaps body and belief were inherently intertwined. As you sank deeper into the bedding, your breathing gradually steadied. A dull ache in your shoulders reminded you of the day's unfinished labor. You shifted to ease the pressure, tracing circles with your fingertips along weary muscles. This simple gesture sent warmth rippling through your limbs. Your grandmother had always insisted that a brief self-massage at night prevented winter aches from settling deep within. Now you believed it wholeheartedly. Recalling the stiffness that had gripped you when you neglected this ritual last time, your gaze drifts to the door crack, where a breeze gently brushes the floor's edge. You pull the blanket tighter around your legs. The chill in this cottage is as stubborn as an unwelcome guest, refusing to retreat. Yet you meet it with silent strategy layers of animal warmth, the scent of warming herbs, the scent of wool. These subtle defenses build a barrier, keeping sleep ever within reach. Your thoughts drift to a peculiar winter talisman, the legend heard at the harvest gathering. A shepherd insisted that some families hung bundles of hawthorn branches above their beds to ward off nightmares. His words brimmed with conviction, making you picture him suspending the charm each year with ritualistic solemnity. Now scanning the cottage, you half-minus expect to spot such a bundle near the rafters, yet find none. Yet the memory itself suffices to warm you. Each villager upholds tradition in their own silent way. You feel your breath deepening, falling into a slow rhythm. The hearth's warmth envelops you, mingling with a faint heat radiating from the livestock against the walls. The lingering fragrance of crushed herbs clings to your fingertips. You raise your hand to your nose once more, letting the scent guide you into slumber. A faint sound pierces the stillness. The wooden spoon drying by the hearth gives a slight creak, perhaps stirred by the last warmth rising from the embers. This sound reassures you, reminding you that even the smallest household objects are part of the night's soundscape. Everything in this little cottage is sharing the winter with you. You relax your jaw, releasing the winter tension that often gathers here. Your tongue lightly touches the roof of your mouth as your breathing slows. You feel yourself drifting towards the edge of deeper slumber. The chill attempts once more to slip through the gaps in the bedding, but the layers of warm clothing hold firm. You cradle your cheek in your palm, letting the faint scent of herbs mingle with the woolly warmth. In the distant corner, a sleeper murmurs unformed words. Another breathes in steady rhythm, weaving a gentle lullaby. These simple sounds cradle you tenderly. You adjust your hips, sinking into the straw lined nest, feeling the dry stalks beneath the layers of clothing. The smoky scent from the hearth veils the room like gauze. Your eyelids grow heavy, thoughts slow. Every remedy passed down through the village, every small comfort, every quiet wisdom takes effect. The herbs soothe your spirit. The lingering warmth of the walls comforts your chest. The gentle breathing of family members surrounds you like feathers. You surrender to this softness. Your body relaxes, inch by inch. The night no longer cuts like a blade. The healing has taken hold, weaving a slender bridge between the chill and your longing for rest. Wrapped in warmth and murmurs, you drift once more towards the realm of dreams, carried by the quiet solace of the winter night. As your breath grows slow and the herbal fragrance dissolves into the mist, another presence begins to settle within the room, neither human nor beast. Some older, quieter existence, forged from legends that flow through winter villages, like a wandering shadow. As you shift slightly to adjust the bedding, the darkness seems to thicken with substance, bearing a weight, almost like a gaze. This is the hour when imagination stirs, when the cold night invites ancient tales to slip into your thoughts. Lids half-minus close. You listen to the wind tapping lightly upon the window panes. This sound recalls a tale from last year's winter solstice feast. A woodcutter claimed the biting wind carried whispers from ancestral spirits who peered upon the living in winter's deepest depths. The guests scoffed. Yet you remember the woodcutter's tone was steady and assured. Recalling it now, this notion strangely brings comfort. When one imagines the cold winter harboring unseen guardians rather than empty chill, the biting cold becomes more bearable. You shift your fingers to stir the dry hay, letting the withered stalks whisper softly between your knuckles. Nearby, someone murmurs in their sleep, that half-minus formed, faint sound drifting through the room like a ghostly thought. You smile softly. According to multiple accounts gathered from early parish records, villagers often believed winter nights blurred the line between dreams and reality, with spirits sometimes hovering at the edge of wakefulness. You had no intention of confirming or denying this notion. Tonight, it simply blended naturally into the scene. A sudden creak from the rafters made you raise an eyebrow. The sound was neither loud nor startling, yet it was just enough to awaken your imagination. The image of a little elf flashed through your mind, that mischievous guardian spirit perched upon the roof, pacing as it weighed whether your home was tidy enough to merit shelter from the cold. An old woman in the village had once insisted such sprites were real, claiming they tapped the beams to demand crumbs as offerings. You quietly resolved to leave crumbs by the hearth tomorrow, just in case. Closing your eyes for a moment, you let these semi-mindless mythical thoughts drift around you. They are not frightening, but rather like old friends keeping you company on a winter's night. Such whispered tales were born to explain the things villagers could hear but not see. You draw in a deep breath, the warmth rising in little clouds through the cold air. A thread of silent memory surfaces. A tale heard while drawing water from the monastery pond. A scholar who travelled studying winter folklore once remarked that academics remained perplexed by how widespread these beliefs truly were, and whether they were invented by families to soothe children or to comfort themselves. The surviving evidence is fragmentary, scattered through ballads and faded notebooks. You imagine future scholars squinting at those notes, trying to discern which fears were real and which were merely tales born of long, dark nights. You turn again, rolling gently towards the wall warmed by the animals. The warmth soothes you, yet your thoughts drift to the dark corners of the hut. Tonight, those corners seem especially deep, as if shadows were creeping towards your bed. You watch the faint embers cast living minus like shadows upon the far wall, crooked silhouettes like stooped figures, others like outstretched arms. In the blink of an eye, those shapes dissolve back into ordinary darkness. You exhale softly, smiling inwardly at your drowsy imagination. A sudden gust whistles through the window, a low hum sweeping across the cottage like a distant call. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders, feeling no fear, only a faint tremor of awareness. How small you are in this world full of mysteries. Winter nights always stir this awareness. A figure stirs by the hearth, straw rustling softly. Mutters reach your ears, indistinct, but you hear the person sink back into deep, steady breathing. You listen intently to the sound, letting it soothe your mind. Your sleeping family anchors your thoughts, even as your consciousness drifts towards the realm of winter legends. You recall the old hunter once more. He insisted winter brought secret visitors. He described nights when, though no man or beast drew near, faint footsteps could be heard upon the snow. You remember the firelight glinting in his eyes as he spoke, a half-minded smile, half-minded serious gleam. Now you glance towards the door, hearing only the wind, yet the memory lingers like a faint glow. A new sound stirs your eardrums, a soft fluttering near the roof, a bird or loose thatch. You cannot tell. You imagine winter sprites skimming the rafters, ensuring those below sleep soundly. The thought brings a smile to your lips once more. Sometimes imagining benevolent guardians is easier than believing the cold is emptiness. You adjust your sleeping position, feeling the layers of warmth envelop you, the closeness of loved ones, the warmth of livestock seeping through the walls, the blanket drawn up to your chin. Together they form an island of warmth in this winter world brimming with story. You draw in another breath, letting warmth fill your lungs before exhaling slowly. Your breath becomes the rhythm guiding you through the dark night. The cottage sighs softly as the ancient wooden beams shift silently with a falling outdoor temperature. Sounds that would be unremarkable in summer awaken primordial imaginesses in winter. You almost see the house settling its frame in the cold night, whispering tales of the chill. You almost murmur a reply. Weariness returns, eyelids heavy and drooping. The stories drifting through your mind fade, replaced by a deeper drowsiness. You curl into the straw, letting it cradle your shoulders, tucking your toes beneath the quilt, where the gathered warmth feels like a secret little treasure. The shadows of night no longer stand guard like sentinels, but rather accompany you like silent old friends. Thoughts slow, breaths deepen, the tales dwelling in the darkness quietly withdraw. Wrapped in warmth, you sink into slumber, listening to the cottage's murmurs. Thoughts drift once more into the tranquil depths of the night. As you shift gently, allowing the surrounding warmth to settle anew, a faint tingle breaks the stillness. At first, it was merely a faint tingle on your wrist, but in an instant, it grew sharp enough to compel a light scratch. You tried to ignore it, yet a prickling sensation soon spread to your shoulder. Instantly, you recalled the fate accepted by weary medieval sleepers though winter nights were cold. Uninvited guests were ever present. You slipped your hand beneath the bedding, rubbing the itch through your sleeve. The movement stirs the straw beneath you ever so slightly. You sigh, not in frustration, but with the quiet endurance of one well-minus versed in this battle. According to early family records, nearly every country dwelling faced the same winter affliction. Those tiny creatures as heat-minus loving as humans. Lice, fleas, mites, these biting companions that traveled with you from the fields to your bed. You scratched gently once more, careful not to rouse the sleepers pressed close on either side. The itch subsided momentarily, replaced by the warmth of friction. You withdrew your hand beneath the covers, wrapping the woolen scarf tighter around your neck. Yet your mind remained alert, drifting through memories. That day when you had flung the bedding into the cold wind, attempting to dislodge several unwelcome guests. It had helped, but never truly solved the problem. A faint rustling from the thatched roof above made you glance up momentarily. Not a startling sound, likely just small creatures wriggling across the tiles, seeking their own warm nook. The farmer had warned winter brings not only bitter cold, but also the secret migration of tiny pets. Listening to the rustling overhead now, you believed it without doubt. A faint itch resurfaced along your ribs, and you scratched it gently. A weary sigh came from beside you, the other person's shifting elbow brushing your side, sending a ripple of warmth through the bedding. You remained still, unwilling to disturb this delicate balance of shared warmth. A faint tingle returns to your forearm, through your sleeve. You patiently trace small circles to soothe it, such as the night's routine. You endure this nuisance in silence. Inhale deeply the smoky scent of the hearth fire, mingling with the faint musk of wool. As you shift, a few strands of straw peek through the layers beneath you, emitting a soft scraping sound. Your skin alternates between warmth and coolness, occasionally hosting tiny creatures crawling in the heat. You accept each sensation with the ease of breathing. Your thoughts drift to the curious tale the traveling merchant once mentioned, half-minus jokingly, half-minus sympathetically. Some villagers scatter crushed fern leaves on their bedding in winter, supposedly to ward off rodents. You imagine the dry fern leaves mingling with a scent of smoke and wool. Had any fern leaves remained from summer, you would have tried this method. But winter stripped away choice, leaving only patience and layer upon layer of wool. You lightly scratch the base of your neck, then let your hand fall. The warmth of your loved one envelops you like a thick, soft blanket, making those minor itches easy to overlook. Your cousin once remarked that excessive scratching only stirs the insects, as if they relish the attention. Recalling this, you press your lips together, unsure whether it was genuine insight or mischief. When someone gently shifts the edge of the quilt, a chill creeps slowly up from your toes. You draw your toes towards your body, and warmth gradually returns. The itch at your wrists subsides, only for a fleeting tingle to surface at your elbow before vanishing of its own accord. You breathe calmly through each moment. These subtle disturbances belong to winter, alongside the frosty mists, the haze, and the dark night. A conversation overheard while delivering bread to the monastery surfaces in your mind, Several scholars studying rural customs had publicly questioned how could peasants endure swarms of insects and sleepless nights. A monk had laughed and replied, "Habit makes it so. The disturbances become background noise. Now you understand this truth. Each prickle is merely a note in winter's symphony, and you accept it with equanimity." The hearth's flames murmur, embers flickering with soft light. Within the huddled group, a whisper is murmured. Then silence returns. Warmth spreads steadily, like a slow tide pushing back the chill. Within this little nest woven of straw and wool, even the creaking of insects loses some of its menace, becoming merely the background hum of a tale. You shift slightly, easing the faint pressure on your hips. The straw beneath your back rustles softly, mingling with the gentle breathing around you. The prickling sensation flickers in undoubt before fading entirely, replaced by warmth spreading along your shoulders. Your hand drifts to your collar, checking for any lingering movement. Now there is no trace. You close your eyes, allowing your body to rest once more without worry. Though imperfect, the winter night possesses its own tenderness. You meet discomfort with silent resilience. Much as you withstand the cold, a faint itch brushes your ankle, but this time you merely shift your foot, letting the sensation fade. The warmth enveloping you ultimately outweighs this minor annoyance. Your body relaxed once more, sinking slowly into a deeper, quieter rhythm. You exhaled a long, steady breath that emptied your lungs and cleared your mind. The cottage falls silent, the wind's murmur subsiding. Even the smallest creatures seem to have paused their activity, wrapped in layers of clothing, nestled in a family's embrace. You are enveloped by wool and the warmth of intimacy. Consciousness drifts once more towards the soft edge of sleep. Imperfect comfort remains comfort nonetheless. You allow yourself to sink into it. Your eyelids grow heavy. The last thread of irritation melts away in the night's soft embrace. The straw bed cradles your form, warmth hugging your ribs. Breaths grow slower. You let the darkness beckon you back to rest, accepting every part of the night, even its tiny visitors. As you slide back into dreams, sinking once more into the quiet warmth, the last lingering itch fades into the depths of memory. Then your gaze fell upon the cottage's most treasured possessions, the quilts, not the heavy down duvets of later times, nor luxurious feather minus-filled bedding, but simple quilts made from patches of old clothes and scraps of fabric, bearing the accumulated cloth of generations. You pulled the quilt up to your chin, feeling its irregular texture caress your skin. Some patches were soft, others coarse, each bearing its own small history. Your fingers traced the quilt surface, feeling the seams where different fabrics met. A faded blue rolled patchily beside worn brown linen, while the narrow border of an old cloak formed the edge. These fabrics, once disparate, were now stitched together as a unified barrier against the winter's chill. In rural household inventories from centuries past, one finds such brief yet profound entries. Most families possessed but one or two blankets, patched beyond recognition. Here, amidst the blanket's irregular folds, you grasp this truth tangibly. Beside you, someone stirs sleepily, tugging at the blanket's edge. You gently pull it back into place, careful not to disturb them. The fabric trembles softly beneath your fingers, carrying the subtle scent of smoke and time. Each patch carries warmth in its own unique way, and together they form a whole far more precious than the sum of their fragmented parts. You burrow deeper into the bedding, grateful not only for the warmth, but for this familiar weight. Your thoughts drift to last spring, by the communal well, listening to the spinner's tale. She said that when blankets wore beyond repair, people would cut them into strips and reweave them, allowing the warm bloodline to continue across generations. You imagine your own blanket holding fragments of past winter nights, connecting you to ancestors through the fabric's silent weave. This vision immerses you in soft drowsiness and warmth. You stretch your legs to smooth the bedding's creases, letting the warmth spread evenly. Beneath you, the straw mattress gives a soft crackle. Running your hand over the blanket's edge once more, You feel the faint roughness where the final patch was stitched. In the dim light of a tallow candle, someone in this cottage had painstakingly mended that patch, stitch by stitch. Determined to keep the chill at bay, you feel a quiet respect for those patient, mending hands. Suddenly, a memory surfaces. A debate overheard outside the churchyard during harvest season. Several people discussed whether farmers deliberately layered specific fabrics inward for maximum warmth, or simply patched together scraps, letting the quilt take its natural form. This question remains unresolved among those who study the history of daily life, and existing documents offer no clear answer. You gaze at your own quilt, smiling to yourself at the thought that this patchwork pattern might one day spark academic debate. As you lie on your side, you draw the quilt tightly round your shoulders. Warmth gathers beneath your chin, blocking the chill seeping through the slats of the shutters. You tug a corner with your fingertips, gently kneading the wool. The fibers catch the dim firelight, reflecting a soft halo. You inhale deeply. The scent of wool is reassuring, its steadiness almost as comforting as the warmth itself. A slight tremor comes from the other end of the sleeping bag. Instinctively, you lift the corner to share it. A murmured thank you escapes them in sleep as they sink into the new-found warmth. Now the blanket covers both of you, this shelter woven from scraps and necessity becoming mutual warmth. As your bodies settle and temperatures even out, this gesture softens your chest. Outside, the wind stirs, carrying a hollow sigh that brushes against the door. You draw the blanket tighter, its gentle chill molding to your form. The fabric blocks most of the chill, yet a faint coolness still nibbles at your toes. You bury your feet deeper into the layers of bedding, letting warmth reclaim your body. The cottage creaks in the cold, its ancient frame shifting with the movement. Your blanket remains a faithful companion. Your fingertips brush a particularly soft patch of fabric, likely salvaged from a child's old smock. The contrast between this softness and the surrounding coarse patches brings a strange comfort. You imagine the blanket's past lives. Once a garment, once touched by hands, once carried through the seasons. Now it accompanies you, granting warmth a second or third lease of life. A faint rustling comes from beside you, as if someone is arranging their own blanket. Sound mingles with the faint crackling of dying embers. Another sleeper's sigh carries warmth to the corner of the blanket, near your cheek. These silent exchanges reveal that blankets are no ordinary cloth. They bear the imprint of intimacy, serve as proof of shared survival through winter's chill, and stand witness to nights spent together. You let your thoughts sink into the quilt's warm embrace as the firelight softens, transforming the cottage into a world woven of shadows and muted gold. The blanket becomes your anchor, locking warmth securely against your chest, shielding you from the night's sharp edges. You bury your chin deeper, feeling the wool gently cradle your jaw. The chill presses faintly against the window pane, yet the blanket steadfastly holds its place. You relax your shoulders, your thoughts slowing, smoky, woolly, and hay-minus, like scents swirl softly around you. You listen to the breathing of the sleeper, a steady chorus of fragile, peaceful winter night. You curl into the folds, letting warmth melt the last tension from your muscles. This blanket seems a silent vow passed down through generations, stitched by ancestors who weathered cold nights. Nearing your vigil now, your eyelids grow heavy, thoughts drifting to its soft patterns. The warmth of patchwork holds you tight. With a slow exhale, you slip back into sleep, gently cradled by this humble blanket, guardian of the cold night. You linger in the quilt's embrace, drifting in light sleep, until a thought taps at the edge of consciousness. This warmth did not arise from nothing. Before you curled beneath the covers, before layers of fabric settled over your shoulders, before shared warmth sank into the straw, labor always came first. That labor, heavy with cold yet unavoidable, must begin each winter night. You stretch your fingers towards the bedding, knuckles still aching faintly from the day's final labor. Your thoughts drift back to stepping out of the cottage earlier, the cold clutching your cheeks like an impatient hand. You had to fetch water from the frozen trough in the corner of the yard. You still remember how the icy bucket seared your palms. A few ancient commemorative books offer brief accounts on winter nights. Families often labor long after sunset, working together to prepare their homes for the night. You knew this truth deep in your bones. You shifted slightly beneath the quilts, inhaling the lingering smoky scent in the air. Before sleep, you had to secure the window shutters, feed the livestock, tend the hearth, stow the tools, and store the water carefully to prevent it from freezing. Your mind retraces the checklist step by step, rushing through the twilight, your breath condensing into white mist before your eyes, carrying buckets across the yard, the heavy water slushing, your boots treading on frozen ridges of ice, each step requiring careful balance. By the time you reached the door, your arms were already trembling uncontrollably. A narrow sliver of memory surfaced, words spoken by a field laborer with a weary smile. HED said hauling water in winter toughened the body more than swinging an axe, for at least the axe kept your hands warm. You'd laughed aloud then, but tonight you understood the weight of those words. Thumb tracing the blanket's edge, you recalled sealing the shutters. The chill seeped through every crevice, gnawing at your cheeks like sharp teeth. You wedged straw beneath the door, pressed the bolt home, praying it would hold through the night. The satisfying click of the wooden latch clicking into place offered a small comfort, its soft sound seeming to promise a measure of peace. During breaks in your labor, the livestock paced restlessly in the barn. With numb fingers, you scattered their evening feed, listening to their warm breaths condense into white mist in the frigid air. The lanterns below spread across the cattle pen floor, each movement casting a trembling shadow. You stroked the shoulder blade of a nearby cow, your palm meeting thick, worn fur, grateful for the heat it conveyed. These animals would warm the cottage tonight, yet never know how profoundly they warmed your life. A peculiar memory surfaces during mill-minus-side conversation. An old farmer once described how, on bitter winter nights, some families would whisper blessings over their livestock, praying for their safe passage through the cold. Whether such rituals held any real power remains unknown, but the sentiment behind them is deeply moving. You imagine yourself murmuring a blessing, your voice rising like cold mist, sealing silent gratitude within the air. You shift gently, the rush mat beneath you rustling softly. Your thoughts turn to the hearth, the heart of all your preparations. Earlier this evening, you crouched before the dying embers, scraping away the ashes slowly with the iron shovel. It felt heavy in your palm as you cleared space for fresh wood. Sparks leapt briefly. You added dry branches, coaxing the flames with a gentle puff until they responded to your intent with a warm glow. A faint echo of an argument drifted through your memory, a fragment of conversation overheard at the Harvest Festival market. Several argued, did every household maintain a faint winter embers, or did some let theirs die, borrowing embers from neighbors each dawn? Existing records contradict each other, a truth seemingly beyond verification. Yet, in this cottage, you know the hearth fire never truly dies. The chill outside is biting. Tonight, as ever, you tend it with care, grateful for even the faintest embers. You press your cheek gently against the coarse wool blanket, letting its warmth envelop you. Your thoughts still circle tonight's chores before lying down. You swept away scattered straw, ensuring no tuft lay near the hearth. The broom swept across the hard-packed earth, each stroke leaving shallow circular marks, the dim firelight tracing them into lines like a winter mat. You tidied the wooden bowls, checked the stew pot, ensuring no flying sparks would cause danger through the night. Beside you, someone shifted, tugging at the blanket's edge, gently pulling you back into the warmth of the present. Without opening your eyes, you share the quilt, shifting your shoulder to let them draw closer. Warmth spread once more, reclaiming the comfort the cold wind tried to steal. Your thoughts return to the moment you slipped beneath the covers, your hands still carrying a hint of stiffness. Ash lingers beneath your fingernails. Frost once clung to your boots, now melting by the hearth. The traces of labor lingered in your body for a long while. Now you curled your toes, simply to savor the comfort of warmth returning. A memory surfaced gently, a saying you'd once heard someone mention at the village's edge. Performing household tasks slowly and quietly invites sweet dreams, while rushing through them invites restless tossing and turning. Whether this holds truth or not, you recall working tonight with a settled mind, each task synchronized with your breathing. These small rituals of care often calm your thoughts before lying down. You turn your head slightly, the uneven contours of the straw pillow cradling your neck. The cottage is utterly still, save for the faint breath of the sleeper, the soft trestle of straw, and the low groan of wooden beams adjusting to the cold. The warmth of peatland livestock weaves into gentle waves, gently enveloping you. Tired arms and cold fingers fade from memory, replaced by a sense of complete fulfillment. The labor is done, the night settled. Having labored through the biting wind, you now rest beneath thin blankets, wrapped in shared warmth, closing your eyes completely. The echoes of evening's toil sink quietly into your thoughts. With each breath, the heaviness in your limbs sinks deeper into the straw. You feel a quiet contentment. This repose earned, the certainty of being fully prepared for the long winter ahead. Your body gradually relaxes. Your breathing grows slower. The night gently envelops you. In the faint glow of embers, you drift back into sleep, cradled by the warmth you yourself have created. You rest quietly, letting the bedding caress your ribs. When the weight of the air within the room shifts imperceptibly, something your body senses without thought, smoke invariably appears. You inhale cautiously, noticing a faint sting gathering deep in your throat, even as the hearth fire nears its end. A mist like haze lingers in the room, like a weary ghost reluctant to depart, drifting slowly between the rafters. You blink once, letting your eyes adjust to the hazy vapor floating overhead. The smoke is neither thick nor threatening, yet it is everywhere, entwined with the air you breathe. Early architectural texts often note most cottages vented smoke solely through roof holes or thatched gaps. Tonight, with every shallow breath, you grasp this truth acutely. The smoke rises, swirls, descends, trapped by the low ceiling and winter's stagnant air. You shift gently, careful not to disturb the sleeping form beside you. A dry, rasping cough comes from near the hearth. Someone exhales sharply, shifting to avoid the thick smoke hugging the floor. You turn your head slightly, burying your nose deeper into the woolen blanket, letting its clean scent replace the smoky stifleness around you. Embers flicker faintly, like tiny red eyes blinking in the hearth sign trough. With each blink, another wisp of smoke drifted slowly towards the darkened beams overhead. You watched its path, following the sinuous dance until it vanished into the shadows. A faint creak came from above, as if some rafters were clearing their throats. You smiled faintly at the thought, your eyes still heavy with sleep. Your breathing grew heavy once more, yet the air felt warmer and denser than anticipated. You recalled a story told by a young farmer over hot soup. Villagers who breathed the smoky air each winter gradually trained their lungs to endure intense exertion, forging an extraordinary resilience. Whether wisdom or a boastful tale, the thought resurfaced now, accompanied by a faint hum of memory. You roll onto your side, cheek pressed against the blanket. The straw beneath you rustles softly, blending its dry scent into the room. For a moment, the mingled fragrance of earth, wool, and the faint sweetness of embers is almost comforting. You draw in gently, letting the warmth fill your chest before exhaling slowly. A new sensation slipped into your awareness. Tonight the smoke lay thicker upon the floor. Perhaps the wind had shifted. Perhaps the thatch had dampened. Perhaps a stubborn ember gnawed at some piece of wood. You tilted your head slightly, breathing through the gap in the bedding. the familiar weight of smoke settling against your skin. Glancing towards the window slit, only pitch blackness met your gaze. Outside, the air must be utterly still. Another cough echoes from the far wall, deeper this time, followed by a faint groan and the rustle of bedding shifting. You imagine the chill stinging their throat, much as it occasionally stings your own. A fragment of a winter tale surfaced. A wandering storyteller once said that a home in deep winter was half sanctuary, half smoky, where families learned to breathe darkness as if it were an old companion. You had laughed aloud at the time, yet now found the words strangely accurate. You slipped a finger beneath the covers, waving it gently through the air to stir the smoke. This motion draws a thread of cool air into your space, easing the burning sting in your throat. You withdraw your fingers back under the covers, letting them warm once more. The faint prickling in your throat gradually fades. A discussion overheard at the midsummer fair surfaces in your mind. Several people debating how frequently medieval households were exposed to prolonged smoke. Written records are sparse and fragmented, leaving many questions unanswered. You imagine future scholars poring over ancient texts, trying to understand how you, in this dim room, breathe amidst the quiet smoke. The thought of being studied through fragmented conjecture stirs peculiar delight within you. The hearth fire suddenly leaped, emitting a soft hiss. A wisp of smoke rises swiftly, making the air whirl in a brief dance. You blink to sharpen your vision. The lingering warmth of the embers remains faintly perceptible, enough to melt the chill at your feet. Tucking your toes into another fold of the quilt, you feel gratitude for this small comfort. Now you listen more intently. The cottage is filled with the faint sound of breathing, the rustle of bedding, and the smoke's silent trail traced through the night. The beams seem to gather the smoke as if bearing low minus hanging mist. The air carries the heavy yet familiar scent of winter, enveloping the sleeper as essential as frost and darkness. You feel the chest rising and falling slowly, the breaths shallower than usual yet still calm. As you sink deeper into the bedding, a warmth trickles between your ribs. Even the heavy smoke merges with the rhythm of sleep. You learn to breathe around it, through it, into it. You find pockets of clearer air, tiny sanctuaries formed where warmth rises and the folds of bedding part. You adjust silently, as generations before you have done. Your eyelids grow heavy once more, the smoky air dissolving into a soft mist that settles gently upon your thoughts. You focus on the warmth beside you, on your neighbor's steady breathing, on the faint glow of embers. You bury your chin deeper into the blanket, letting the wall filter the air for you. Slowly, gently, your body accepts the smoky darkness, weaving it into the night. The hearth sighs, faint sparks flicker, smoke curls upward, soft and languid. Your breathing gradually slows, synchronizing with the room's quiet rhythm. Enveloped in warmth, surrounded by the soft murmurs of sleepers, you feel your consciousness drifting towards repose, trusting the night to safely escort you through the hazy hours. You let your breath relax beneath the wall, allowing the smoke to pass like a thin, silent ribbon across your nose. As night deepens, the hearth fire nearly sinks into slumber. Yet within the cottage, someone moves with purpose. The rustle of footsteps, the creak of floorboards, the whisper of cloak against straw. Half minus opening your eyes, you recognize the familiar cadence of the one who watches over the fire on cold nights. Every household harbors such a figure in winter nights. Perhaps an elder who rises early, parents who rest only when the fire burns steady, or a child feigning bravery as darkness thickens. You watch the blurred silhouette approach the hearth, movements now slow and cautious, fearful of disturbing those curled in warmth. The faint glow of embers traced the figure, allowing you to guess who it was. The guardian crouched by the hearth, leaning close to examine the coals. The village chronicles recorded by wandering scholars repeatedly mention, during long winter nights, every household would assign someone to watch the fire, especially when the chill threatened to seep indoors. Tonight, you felt gratitude for this silent diligence. You sensed the chill lurking at the room's edges, waiting to creep towards you when the embers grow faint. As the guardian bends, you hear a soft exhalation, a wisp of smoke curling upwards. The glow brightens, revealing cautious hands, adding slender sticks to the embers. The wood hesitates to ignite, as if debating whether to burn. Sparks leap, scattering flecks of gold across the darkness. You shift slightly, merely to ease the pressure on one hip. The straw beneath you rustles, yet remains silent in the stillness. Half-minus open eyes watch this gentle ritual. The guardian stirs the embers with a slender twig, urging the flames on without haste. Each movement speaks of patience. Winter demands patience. The hearth fire demands it even more. Dame Emery, overheard at some market long ago, drifts back. A wandering potter once quipped tending a winter hearth is like tending a stubborn old friend, requiring soothing every few hours. Now as you watch the flames test their strength, wavering before settling into a faint yet steady glow, you recall these words. The figures by the hearth slowly straighten, stretching their stiff shoulders. They murmur something, perhaps gentle blessings, perhaps silent prayers for a night of undisturbed peace. The words are too soft to make out, yet their tone carries warmth. You imagine that long ago, people might have murmured small incantations or prayers by the hearth, believing the flames would guard their homes while they slept. Whether those whispers held true power or merely comforted the whisperers is now impossible to know. Your gaze drifts to the ceiling, where smoke gathers into a faint, drifting cloud. The flames grew faint, and the smoke rose lazily, flowing like a tide over each beam before gradually thinning into the darkness. Someone beside you shifted, their warm breath touching the corner of the blanket near your cheek. Even as the night deepened, a sense of security, wrapped in warmth, filled your heart. Dame Emery surfaced, a conversation overheard at the edge of the monastery orchard. Several scholars debated whether country households lit fires out of fear of the cold or dread of the darkness. Both theories had their supporters, and the discussion remained inconclusive. Recalling their argument over this question, a faint smile touched your lips, yet your family needed only to continue their nightly ritual to provide the answer. Warmth and safety were reason enough. The keeper gently stirred the logs once more, and the flames leapt in response. A faint spark illuminated the room momentarily before drifting away. The hearth fire did not grow, yet it spread warmth just enough, softening the air. You felt that warmth touch your toes gently and reassuringly. Muscles relaxed unconsciously. The figure gazed at the hearth for a moment, eyes narrowed in hesitation. Finally, with satisfaction, they rose and moved through the dim room. Their footsteps were so light, they seemed to float upon the straw, finding a place among the sleeping figures. Ice blended into the silence as they drew blankets over their shoulders. You closed your eyes once more, listening to the low murmur of the rekindled embers. The fire now stirred, not fully blazing yet, but enough to ward off the chill for the rest of the night. You breathed slowly, letting warmth seep into your chest with each inhalation. The room fell silent once more, filled only by the sound of breathing, the rustle of bedding, and the faint settling of straw. The guardian's duty was temporarily fulfilled, and the firelight cast a soft, flickering halo across your eyelids. You crawled deeper into the bedding, feeling boundless gratitude for this small flame that held back the night's chill. It was the constant presence of the watcher, the gentle persistence of rekindled embers, the warmth piercing the darkness, silent and faithful. Your breathing slowed, your body fully relaxed. The cottage itself seemed to sigh, sinking into its own slumber. The hearth has its watcher, the night its guardian. You drift back into slumber, buoyed by this quiet assurance that warmth shall endure until dawn. As your thoughts drift to realms softer and sweeter than the crackling fire, the toil of the day, or winter's weariness, you sink deeper into the warmth, grateful for this small flame rekindled by careful hands. Those memories, or rather, the recollections of food, were not of daily coarse grains or thin porridge scraped from the pot's bottom. But the sumptuous feasts that adorn the harsh winter months, the brilliant radiance of the winter solstice celebrations, still glowed vividly in the mind long after the flowers had faded. As your eyelids grow heavy, the gentle pull of those recollections warms you from within, the warmth no hearth could ever match. Breathing slows, and through the smoke-filled air drifts a faint, lingering fragrance, the charred aroma of roasted root vegetables, the mellow richness of warm ale, and the lingering sweetness of honey that once trickled down your fingers during winter feast. A sleepy smile touches your lips, knowing these are but memories. Yet on a cold night, the very thought of those flowers still warms your heart. In the village steward's simple harvest records, brief mentions of such celebrations occasionally appear, often marking seasonal transitions or survival through harsh winters. These feasts were precious and rare, laden with meaning. Now you let the memory settle within, feeling that weight of significance. You shift gently, careful not to disturb the curled figure sleeping beside you. Someone murmurs softly, perhaps dreaming of their own feast. Your thoughts drift along tables crowded with neighbors, the steaming aroma of stews rising into the cold night, laughter warming the space far more than the hearth fire. Such nights seemed carved from gold, even when the feast is humble and the food scarce. The warmth of gathering makes everything feel abundant. The laughter from last year's celebration still ripples faintly in your memory. You recall the baker insisting tasting sweet things at least once before winter deepens is the true remedy for enduring the cold. To prove his point, he'd offered thumb-sized honey cakes, each vanishing instantly between grateful teeth. You could almost feel the crumbs grinding between your molars now, though your stomach remained empty save for a light supper. Embers stirred in the hearth, wisps of smoke curling through the air like silent reminders of reality. Yet the lingering warmth of the feast softened your very breath. You pictured neighbors sharing hot soup, bowls cradled, fingertips curled around the grateful warmth. That night, the heat seeped into your fingers, banishing the chill for hours. Another memory surfaced, softer, steeped in family affection. You recall your grandmother offering baked apples to a child, sprinkled with spices she'd treasured all year. That child's blossoming smile lit the room brighter than the hearth's glow. This small gesture left a mark deeper than any feast. At this thought, a quiet ache of longing stings you. You pull the blanket tighter around your chin. The cottage is silent, yet your thoughts continue to glow with warmth and celebration. It makes you realize that winter is not solely hardship. Those starlight moments bind the village together, sharing a jar of spices, lighting a pot of stew, passing it across the yard to those who need it most. These small acts linger in the heart. You hear a soft hum beside you, perhaps chasing a memory from a dream. The intimacy among sleeping family members mirrors the warmth of feasts long past. Bodies pressed close, breaths mingling, cooling warmth gathering in the room. You curl within the blankets, stretching your toe, letting the warmth from memory spread downward like a second torch. A thought drifts into your mind, a conversation overheard by the mill. People spoke of how farmers comforted themselves on bitterly cold nights with tales of feasts long past. Those recollections were like little lanterns in the heart, glowing quietly in the darkness. You realize you are doing the same thing now, clutching the lingering warmth of sweet treats and joyful times. Thoughts drifted to the curious tale heard at the midsummer fair. An old man swore that placing crumbs of cheese from the winter feast beneath one's pillow brought sweet dreams. The crowd hid low, yet some had secretly tried it. You imagined the aroma growing richer each night, and a soft chuckle escaped you. The cold pressed against the walls, and the cottage creaked once more. You listened to the sounds without a trace of worry. The warmth of shared memories builds a barrier against the darkness. You shift, burying your cheek deep into the blanket, letting the wall caress your skin. Thoughts drift to the flickering lamps at the feast, their light dancing in warm drinks, reflecting the hazy glow on smiling faces. Another gentle debate surfaces, reminiscent of discussions heard in the monastery. Scholars ponder, did the winter feast originate from religious tradition, or humanity's urgent need to pause suffering through shared joy? None can fully agree. You suspect the truth lies in both. Celebrations become a way of survival in the depths of winter, reminding the world that warmth, though fleeting, is real. Your breathing deepens, the lingering sweetness of spices dancing on your tongue. Illusory, yet comforting. The warmth of family sinks deeper into your ribs. You feel the collective heat embrace you, shaped by present reality, yet carrying the solace of memory. The feast's recollection fades slowly, becoming a soft imprint of colors and flavors. With a soft sigh, you release them, trusting they have warmed you sufficiently from that. Night envelops you once more, softer this time, carrying the faint glow of embers and reflecting the warmth within your heart. Your eyelids grow heavy. Your body softens within the patchwork of warmth and the lingering memories of comfort. You drift once more towards the quiet, warmed darkness of sleep as you lie still beneath the quilts, letting the lingering warmth of festive memories gradually fade. A faint, hoarse sound emerges from somewhere in the room. A cough, followed by a deeper one. This sound cuts through the silence like an unignorable reminder. Winter nights are not only cold and smoky, nor filled solely with small rituals of comfort. Some nights, illness spreads easily through crowded dwellings. You swallow, feeling the dry air scrape the back of your throat. Warmth fills the room, yet within the walls, every shared breath is sealed. You shift slightly, making space for the sleeper curled beside you, their warm breath brushing your shoulder. The air around you grows heavy once more, not only from the smoke, but from the simple fact of bodies pressed together. The ancient village chronicles record how during harsh winters, when people huddled together in small wooden huts, breathing the same stagnant air for long stretches, illness followed like a shadow. You sense this truth in the faint wheezing from the corner by the door, where an old man lies wrapped in thick woolen blankets. You listen quietly, counting each sound. Another damp, weary cough surfaces, followed by the faint sniffling of a child asleep. You sigh softly, your breath warming the inside of the quilt. Illness crept through the winter like an uninvited guest, slipping in unannounced. Some nights it lingered softly, merely a sore throat or splitting headache. Others it settled heavily, its weight felt by the whole household. You rubbed your arms through the quilt, trying to ease the slight stiffness in your chest. Your skin still held warmth, yet the air grew increasingly thin. The smoke offered no comfort. Someone shifted within the room, perhaps seeking a sliver of fresher air at the edge of the crowd. You know this feeling well. You lift the corner of the quilt, letting a thread of chill slip inside, then pull yourself back under. Your thoughts drift to the midwife's words by the hearth. Winter ailments often stem from cold drafts, damp straw, or smoke clogging the lungs. She advised the family to air their quilts regularly and keep herbs at hand. Now you recall her, those steady eyes and rough palms, and the scent of herbs she carried, both soothing and pungent. You glance at the small pouch of herbs by your pillow. How you wish those dried leaves could banish all sickness. Though you know it's impossible, the chill has seeped deep into the village. Even the strongest lungs cannot hold out forever. Yet these bundles of dried herbs, even if they cannot cure, at least bring solace. You breathe softly, trying to convince yourself the prickling in your throat is merely a minor discomfort. The faint glow of embers dimly illuminates the sleeping face beside you. Someone stirs and murmurs softly, perhaps from fever, perhaps from the cold, tightening, aching muscles. You pull the quilt towards them, sharing the only warmth available. Almost instantly, they curl into the warmth, and you hear their breathing deepen. A conversation overheard at the public well in early winter surfaces in your mind. Someone had mentioned in a low voice a family who boiled pine needles and inhaled the steam to ease tight lungs. You've never tried it, but now the thought carries a tender hope. Should the cough persist tomorrow. You'll gather whatever sparse green leaves you can find. Breathing steadies, yet your mind remains alert. You listen intently to the house's sounds. Snores surge like tides, punctuated by occasional coughs. That distinct sound transforms the night's softness into something more fragile. Winter almonds always creep in slowly. They linger stubbornly, returning like the tides. A scholarly debate heard once in a temple resurfaces. Several scholars had discussed whether villagers attributed illness to the encroaching cold or to spirits lurking within the rafters. They pored over fragmented ancient texts, yet truth remained elusive, and memory drew a faint smile to your lips. Tonight, neither theory mattered. What truly counted was the warmth you could offer, the steadiness found in mutual reliance, the shared breath that prevented fear from taking root. You shifted position once more, easing the dull ache in your side. The straw beneath you rustled, carrying a dry, musty scent. As you pulled the blanket higher, its warmth brushed your jawline. In the drowsiness, a hand gently caressed your arm seeking solace. You let it linger. This warmth nourished you both. The hearth fire churned, expelling a wisp of smoke that drifted through the room. You inhaled cautiously, your chest tightening slightly before easing again. Closing your eyes, you tried not to dwell on each cough. The depths of winter demanded a balance of caution and acceptance. You cannot banish the illness, but you can bear it with silent patience. As the warmth of the sleeper envelops you, your body relaxes once more. The coughing grows fainter, and weariness drags the sick one into deeper slumber. The cottage creaks softly. The wind outside the window gradually quiets. You inhale slowly, letting the breath warm your ribs. Listen to the night settling into a gentler rhythm. Eyelids grow heavy. A faint ache in the throat reminds you of the outside world, yet the warmth surrounding you steadies your thoughts. You bury your chin in the bedding, letting your breath deepen. Your body slowly, gently releases its tension. With a weary sigh, the last remnants of wakefulness drift away, enveloped in the warmth of embrace. Listening to the fragile stillness of a winter night, you drift back into slumber, trusting the morning light will bring its healing radiance. As the last echoes of a cough fade, a deep silence rises within you, not the quiet bestowed by the room, but your body settling. It emanated from your abdomen, from that enduring, unforgettable ache of winter. Hunger, not sharp enough to keep you awake all night, nor intense enough to cause alarm, yet undeniably present, familiar, the patient companion of the cold season. You placed your hand beneath the quilt on your stomach, feeling the dull, hollow ache there, breathing slowly through it, shifting your weight upon the straw. You attempt to smooth that hollow void. The cottage is warm enough for sleep, yet hunger threads through the warmth like fine silk. In the rural overseer's sparse records, a brief note once read winter hunger not only shaped the villagers' bodies, but wove their dreams, vivid phantoms of food, fields, or vanished feasts. As thoughts drifted to distant memories of meals, you truly grasped the weight of those words. Your eyelids fluttered slightly at the first hazy apparition. You saw coarse bread cooling on a wooden board. Imagine the scent of warm earth rising, reaching out to take it. The image dissolved like mist. Hunger teases in the cold winter, weaving hope and longing into soft phantoms that dance before your eyes. You turn once more, feeling the straw beneath your hips shift. Someone curls closer beside you, their warmth brushing your shoulder. This intimacy brings comfort. The shared warmth nearly dispels the gnawing emptiness within. You curl deeper, listening to the gentle breathing around you. As your body relaxed in the stillness, your stomach gave a faint rumble. Memory surfaced of that evening meal. The clear broth simmered with root vegetables, a few grains of leftover cereal, and a small piece of bread shared among the family. Not enough to satisfy hunger, yet enough to sustain life. A traveling baker once claimed hunger sharpens dreams, lending them brighter hues and deeper textures. You dismissed it then, but now, with your stomach's dull ache, doubt creeps in. You lift a hand slightly, resting it on your ribs to feel their slow rise and fall. Hunger makes each breath unmistakably clear. A figure shifted nearby, a breeze brushing your cheek. You listened intently to the sound, letting it steady your heartbeat. Your thoughts drifted once more, back to the tales heard last winter among elders gathered round the hearth. They spoke of strange dreams that visited during famine overflowing granaries. Warm milk, sweet fruits untasted for years. Some believed these visions were gifts from unseen guardians, soothing weary souls. Others dismissed them as mere pleas from the body for nourishment. The elders never reached agreement. You wrapped yourself tighter in the blanket, rubbing your arms to dispel the faint chill that often accompanied hunger. Your stomach crumbled again, this time more softly, as if whispering questions only sleep could answer. You draw in deeply, allowing the air to slowly fill your lungs before exhaling it as a faint sigh. The flames in the hearth leap one last time, then sink into deeper stillness. The darkness thickens, yet it does not fill you with dread. Your thoughts began weaving warmth, gathering fragments of comfort to soothe the hollow within. You saw summer sun ripening the wheat fields, golden sheaves piled higher than your head. You imagined the scent of warm bread again, this time intensely rich, as if memory refused to be forgotten. Beneath the quilt, you shifted your legs, drawing your knees closer to your chest. This position eased the hollow ache in your stomach. Beside you, someone exhaled a warm sigh, the quilt tightening as the sleeper drew near. That warmth spread along your side, steady and reassuring. You recalled the shepherd's tale. He insisted hunger sharpened intuition. He said that, on the hungriest nights, he would always dream of the precise location where he would find the lost flock the next day. You had scoffed, but his calm certainty has kept the thought lingering ever since. Now as your thoughts drift like strange shapes, you cannot help but wonder if hunger truly alters the course of dreams. Another vague notion surfaces, stirred by a chance overheard discussion at a village gathering. Some believed hunger minus induced dreams concealed seasonal omens, subtly guiding the clan. The theory lacked solid proof, and the few existing accounts contradicted each other. Yet now, this thought nestles gently and curiously in your mind. Your breathing deepens. The sharp ache in your belly gives way to a dull ache, replaced by a hazy heaviness that steers your thoughts towards come ashore. You feel yourself floating slightly, as if the straw beneath you has transformed into clouds. Body heat envelops your ribs. The scent of wool fills your nostrils, and darkness drapes over you like a soft curtain. Somewhere in the room, the sleeper murmurs a few indistinct words before falling silent once more. Yet that faint sound anchors you firmly to the earth. Thoughts grow increasingly lax, images drifting slowly through your mind like flowing light bread glowing like lanterns, bowls of soup almost within taste, ripe apples heavy on summer branches. These visions carry no urgency, only a gentle pull drawing you deeper into repose. Now your eyes close fully, letting the images dissolve into soft darkness. Hunger lingers, yet it too is merged with the night's rhythm, becoming a familiar companion. You accept it, breathe through it, letting thoughts drift. Gradually, you slide into a dreamscape woven warmth, memory, longing, and the quiet emptiness within. You curl tighter, letting the haze of half-minus sleep envelop your thoughts, when faint sounds pierce the cozy little cocoon, drifting in from outside. First a low murmur, then another, not from within, but faint sound waves drifting through the thin walls. You stiffen momentarily, straining to listen. It is no disturbance, merely the quiet flow of life next door. Winter nights always carry sound in unexpected ways. You shift your head on the straw mattress, letting one eye peek out from beneath the quilts. The chill stung your skin, yet you remained still, waiting. Another whisper drifted across the courtyard, neighbors murmuring, perhaps the tail end of late minus night labor, or the exchange as the hearth was extinguished before sleep. In the depths of winter, the intimacy of the village grew more palpable. thin walls and frozen air transforming private moments into shared echoes. You exhale softly, recalling the few court records preserved in this rural community. These documents describe how closely the cottages were built, allowing villagers to hear each other clearly in the quiet hours, especially on cold nights when sound carried further. Now you feel the very substance of each whispered word, brushing your ear like the lightest tap on a plank. In the cottage next door, a door closes. After the soft click of the bolt, a long silence descends. You can almost see them arranging bedding in the darkened room, whispering a final word to their beloved before sleep. You imagine the warmth of their breath clouding the air, much like your own. The thought is comforting, as if the entire village is sinking into a prolonged, shared breath. Outside, sound stirs again. A dog barks briefly, inquiring, then falls silent. Perhaps it's instant movement, or perhaps it was merely a dream. Here, dogs and humans share equal measure of the night. Their sounds become notes in a winter ballad. You bury your ears back into the duvet seeking warmth, but the chill has already seeped in. Beside you, someone turns over, an arm brushing against yours. The shared warmth steadies your breathing. Through the layers of bedding, the sounds outside grow indistinct again, becoming faint tremors rather than clear words. Your thoughts drift to a peculiar detail recounted last summer by an old shepherd. He said that on long winter nights, villagers sometimes slept more soundly knowing they weren't alone in the silence. The sound of neighbors arguing softly or the faint echo of laughter reminded them that others were awake, battling the same cold. Recalling these words now, you felt a faint sense of companionship in the distant murmurs. The cottage walls creaked softly, warmed by the bodies pressed close on either side. A chill attempts to seep through the cracks, but every joint is stuffed with thick moss-cloth and bound straw, allowing the house to adjust like a living thing under winter's weight. Then a new sound emerges, a slow, steady, faint scraping. In the neighboring hut, someone is moving a stool or sweeping the floor before sleep. You imagine the person brushing away scattered husks or clearing space beside the hearth. These everyday tasks drifted through the walls, carrying a gentle persistence that became the soundtrack to your sleep. You shifted slightly, nestling into a softer hollow within the straw. The rustling beneath you mingled with the sounds outside, blending into a quiet chorus of human existence. Nearby, an infant whimpers, followed by the soft soothing of parents. The sound stirs a thread of tenderness within you. Your thoughts drift to the debate heard in the churchyard, several villagers discussing whether the harsh winter brought families closer through shared hardship, or if the long nights simply forced people to huddle together indoors. Some claimed intimacy bred conflict. Others insisted it deepened bonds. The debate reached no conclusion. Now listening to the village sounds surrounding you, you realize both views might hold true. Winter reveals tenderness while nurturing tension. You gently adjust the quilt, letting it drape over your ears once more, shielding you from the world. The murmur of voices fades, replaced by the steady rhythm of the person beside you. Even through the woolen quilt, you sense the collective presence of the village sinking into slumber. The thin walls feel like a spider's web, silently connecting everyone through shared cold and resilience. Your own breathing slows once more. The dull ache of hunger gradually recedes. The smoky air grows warm and soft. You close your eyes completely, letting the silent world outside the hut become a soft murmur. The warmth radiating from the sleeper beside you guides you towards inner tranquility. As you gradually drift into slumber, the last thing you hear is a faint chuckle outside the window, instantly swallowed by the night. It serves as a simple reminder, even in the depths of winter, life persists with tenacious resilience. You let this faint warmth settle in your thoughts, drifting back to sleep under your family's protection, surrounded by the village's secret heartbeat. As you lie still beneath the blanket, the faint echoes of distant voices fading into the drowsy silence. A low groan suddenly rolls across the roof. The sound is long and heavy, like old timber straining against a cataclysm far colder than the present chill. You open your eyes slightly, sensing the air shift. The night grows thicker, more taut. A storm approaches. A smoky scent brushes your nostrils, mingled with the sharp edge of the biting wind squeezing through the cracks. The gale lashed violently against the window frames, testing the fragile edges of the small cottage. In the rudimentary were the records preserved by vigilant monks. Such nights had been described, when winter storms swept through the village like living creatures. The clanging doors resembled ravenous ponds. Now, with every tremor of the wooden walls, you felt this reality palpably. The gale slammed against the far wall, its roar piercing the small room and rousing several sleepers who shifted and murmured beneath their quilt. Instinctively, you curled tighter, pulling the woolen blanket up to your chin. Outside, the storm's howl grew sharper. That long, mournful wail circles the cottage like a wandering spirit seeking war. The sound waves press against your eardrum, making the room feel ever smaller, the night ever deeper. You close your eyes again, letting the darkness within the bedding soften the noise. But the storm refuses to be ignored. The gale tears at the thatch, snapping several dry reeds loose, scattering them across the roof. You hear their clattering as they bounce and collide upon the rafters overhead. The cottage creaks violently, as if straining against the tempest. You draw a slow breath, forcing yourself to steady. Beside you, someone pulled the quilt tighter in their sleep, burying their face into your shoulder. That warm breath offered a comforting contrast to the storm's icy fury. Another murmured indistinctly, perhaps in response to a sudden clatter at the window. You felt the tension ripple through the group, then settle as warmth briefly prevailed. Your thoughts drifted reluctantly to the door. At this moment, it seemed as thin as a cicada's wing, a fragile barrier against the catastrophe. You pictured the bolt gnawing at the frame, each gust making the straw stuffed beneath the door tremble. You had packed the gaps tightly at dusk, but such storms often made even sturdy doors seem fragile. Now the memory of that seal became your sole anchor. The gale roared again, its low rumble making the straw mat beneath your feet quiver. You opened your eyes to see the dim shutters lift and fall. A bone-minus chilling draft slips through the gap, instantly numbing your toes. You tuck your feet between someone's legs to steal warmth, earning a sleepy, startled gasp before they drift back into slumber. Your thoughts drift to tales told by traveling shepherds. They claimed winter storms roar with the voice of mountains, proclaiming the village's insignificance. Others believed the storms were messages from wandering spirits, urging folk to shut their doors and watch over their kin. Neither theory held firm ground, nor could ancient, fragmented texts unravel the mystery. Yet tonight, as the gale howled, the notion felt strangely fitting. You tossed and turned upon the straw mattress. Yet even as the wind shook the walls, the gentle support of the straw cradled your spine. The roar transforms into an undulating, restless tide, at times like the distant rumble of ocean wave, at others like a beast panting at the door. Each sudden gust makes your hair stand on end, yet the warmth of those sleeping around you steadies your heartbeat. The gale slams violently against the window frames, making the entire cottage seem to tremble. You held your breath, listening for signs of damage, the groaning of planks, yet no cracking. Slowly, you exhaled, letting relief seep into your chest, like melting ice. The faint fire crackled softly, as if reminding you it still kept watch. You pulled the blanket tighter around your shoulders, shifting to block the cold. The storm continued its fury, racing across the frozen ground, echoing between cottages, rolling through the village like a living thing. Outside, you imagine the snow swirling like dense clouds, sweeping over rooftops and courtyards, blurring everything into shades of white and shadow. By the hearth, someone murmured softly in their sleep, perhaps dreaming of being caught in the storm. You placed your hand gently upon their blanket, conveying silent solace. Soon they settled, their breathing deepening as the warmth around them soothed the fear that had stirred. Another gust lashed the cottage, yet this time you felt less afraid. The walls might tremble, the shutters might rattle, but the warmth within remained as solid as rock. Pressing your cheek against the woolen blanket, you listen more intently. Beneath the howling wind, you hear the steady breathing of your family, the faint rustle of straw, the faint crackling of embers. These sounds form a quiet barrier against the storm's chaos. Slowly, you lower your eyelids. Within the cocoon of bedding and body, the outside clamor fades to a distant, diminishing roar. The storm rages on, yet your consciousness sinks, drifting once more towards the edge of sleep. Each breath warms the confined space beneath the quilts. The chill remains firmly barred outside the door. Your body relaxes, millimeter by millimeter. The gale howls once more, yet you no longer focus on listening. Warm threads around your ribs, straws settling into stillness. Sleep's pulse rises within you. You draw in one last breath slowly, letting it become your anchor. Though the storm still rages in the night, you are cradled by fragile yet solid walls, gently drifting into slumber within the warmth. You rest for a while, or perhaps merely sway and float to the storm's restless rhythm. At some point, the wind's voice shifts, becoming a draw minus outlober, no longer threatening. It resembles a weary creature finally settling after hours of pacing. You stir slightly beneath the covers, half minus open eyes catching an unusual dimness. The air grows heavier and stiller. Before fully waking, you sense the storm's fiercest moment has passed. You drew breath, slowly, letting the warmth of the woolen blanket first brush your nose before filling your lungs with the air. A faint light flickered in the hearth, so slender it seemed more like memory than flame. Yet this wisp of light was enough to convey a new message to your drowsy eyes. The darkness was shifting. It no longer pressed down upon the cottage as it had during the storm. It seemed to be gradually dissipating at the edges, relinquishing its hold on the night. You shifted the straw beneath you with a soft rustle. Beside you, someone murmured softly, stretching stiffly. Another sleeper gave a faint gnaw before sinking back into slumber. Their breaths blended into the silence, and for a moment you listened intently to this human warmth, as if it were the only sound left in the world. Then you catch another sound, a soft glow stirring in the air beyond the shutters. Not a sound, more a sensation, the harbinger of dawn. It always arrives slowly in winter. Unlike summer, it does not burst into the medieval cottage, but creeps cautiously under pallid light, as if testing whether the world is ready to receive it. Yet you sense the shift. The darkness no longer felt boundless. As if gathering strength, you pulled the duvet up to your chin, letting the thoughts settle in your chest. An old weather journal once noted it winter's break of day. Even the frost seems hesitant. Now you were experiencing that very hesitation. The chill beyond the walls remained fierce, yet the sky outside was surely shifting. You venture a hand outside the duvet for a moment, the air instantly biting at your fingertips. You swiftly withdraw your hand, burrowing back into the warmth. Yet, in that fleeting instant, you discern the chill is not what it once was. Less savage, less sharp, as if it had exhausted its fury in the blizzard and now rests in a quieter, weary state. Ice-soft cough echoes from the other end of the house, followed by renewed stillness. A child squirms in its parent's embrace, seeking warmth. The faint scent of smoke drifts from the hearth, mingling with the soft, comforting odors of woolen straw. These familiar fragrances cocoon you, drawing you back into the haze of sleep. Yet deep within, you remain awake. You sense the world gradually brightening. Your thoughts drifted to words spoken by an old farmer beside the communal oven. He had said that the dawn of midwinter always felt like a promise, even if the new day brought only more biting cold and labor with an empty stomach. His promise was not warmth, but the right to reclaim another day of survival from the season's grasp. You recall the look on his face as he smiled, brow furrowed, and the warmth that memory brought far surpassed the faint glow of the hearth. The cold wind tapped feebly against the walls, no longer strong enough to shake them. You heard the faint sound of frost crystals sliding from the thatched roof, landing on the ground with a soft crackle, barely reaching your eardrums. The storm's fury had subsided, leaving a world slowly and cautiously returning to calm. A faint tremble from your stomach reminds you that dawn's hunger arrives long before food. You press your hand to your belly, soothing the ache with small, comforting circles. You know well that morning brings little sustenance, yet the break of day holds its own nourishment. After a long stormy night, light itself is a feast. You bury your face in the bedding, breathing in the familiar scent. Sleep gently nudges consciousness, yet somewhere within you remain half-minded awake, listening for the subtle signs of the world outside growing faintly brighter. Perhaps a bird will soon sing in the distance, or the first pale, grey light will slip through the slats of the shutters into the room. You slowly recline, gazing at the ceiling beam where a faint shadow seems to gather. Is it real? Or your eyes adjusting to the light? You blink, then blink again. There it is, the faintest trace of dawn gently caressing the shadow's edge. The arguments you once heard in the mill drift back to your ears. Several villagers debated whether animals always sense dawn before humans, no matter how tightly the shutters are shut. Some insisted cattle begin to stir at the first light. Others claimed chickens could sense the change through their feathers. The argument remained unresolved, yet tonight you find yourself pressed against the wall, listening for the cattle, waiting for signs of their awakening. After a moment of utter stillness, you faintly hear it, a soft grunt, a shift in weight, the muffled sound of hooves rearranging themselves in the straw. These slow, sleep-minus dazed movements are unmistakably linked to the approaching light of day. You smile inwardly, sensing the animals confirm a premonition you'd long harbored. Dawn approaches. This realization eases something deep within your chest. Not joy, nor relief. A gentle release. A reminder, however fierce the night, it can never imprison the world forever. You exhale slowly, letting warmth fill the small space beneath the bedding. The night's weight made your eyelids flutter. Part of you yearned to greet the dawn awake. Another part longed to sink into final repose before the day's labors began. The two instincts met midway, leaving you suspended in this drifting dreamscape and salt-minus-like stillness. You burrowed deeper into the straw, letting the faint light seep into your thoughts. The most savage edge of the cold retreats temporarily beyond the door. The warm thin doors wraps around you like a soft shield. Your breathing slows, echoing the gentle rhythms of those sleeping nearby. As the world's edge begins to glow, in this tranquil stillness, you are warmed by the silent promise of dawn and drift gently back into sleep. You hover in that soft liminal space between sleep and wakefulness, aware of the light brightening beyond the window, yet reluctant to relinquish the warmth enveloping you. Night has loosened its grip, yet morning has not yet fully claimed the world. This transitional moment is tender, almost suspended. You breathe slowly, letting the woolen blanket warm your face as your thoughts turn quietly to the new day ahead. Not troubled by trivialities, but simply immersed in the simple rhythm of preparing the cottage for another winter and its resilience. You shift slightly, the straw beneath you rustling dryly. The breath of someone beside you brushes your shoulder. Another sleeper stretches their legs, the bedding tightening momentarily before settling again. These subtle movements herald the dawn's approach. Before sunlight touches the cottage floor, the medieval dwelling's morning has already begun. You crack open your eyelids slightly. The room remains shrouded in dimness, only a greyish-white halo outlining the beams. You lift your head slightly, feeling the weight of the bedding slide down your cheek. The hearth fire has nearly died out, leaving only two clusters of grey embers flickering faintly in the cold hearth, like weary eyes. Yet this feeble light suffices to outline the room's contours, allowing you to awaken with ease. You drew a slow, deep breath. The smoky scent felt gentler than during the night. The air remained crisp and biting, yet no longer pierced the very marrow. extending your hand from beneath the layers of bedding. The chill stung your skin, but no longer felt hostile. This was winter's first gift of dawn. The sharpest edges of its cold had quietly blunted. A fragment from a seasonal gathering surfaces in your mind. Livestock keeper once remarked that after a storm, not only humans but animals too seemed unusually tranquil, as if the world itself paused to recuperate. Now, within the stillness beyond the walls, you hear this truth. The animals move, but their pace is slow. There is no restless pacing, no anxious panting, only the gentle shifting characteristic of the dawn. You stretch your arms cautiously, feeling each joint awaken. The huddled posture of the cold night leaves a lingering stiffness in your shoulders. You knead the taut muscles, your hands warming slowly against your skin. The storm outward reshapes itself to your movements, forming fresh indentations beneath your shifting weight. Your thoughts drift to the morning's fixed rituals, stoking the fire, shaking out the bedding, checking the straw's moisture, reawakening the room with action and breath. These daily tasks have set the tone for countless families' winter morning. An old villager once remarked that how one tends the hearth at dawn determines the emotional mood for the entire day. Recalling these words now, you picture the first sparks igniting the logs, warmth rising slowly from the hearth and spreading to your body still wrapped in woolen blankets. You lift the quilts lightly, turning your face fully towards the coolness of dawn. A shiver runs through you, yet it feels like cleansing rather than punishment. The air grows crisp, the smoke thins, and the frosty air permeates. You inhale deeply once more, letting this breath anchor you to the earth. Further within the room, someone yawns sleepily, their exhaled breath condensing into a thin mist in the chill. You watch that wisp of cloud float and dissipate. Another sleeper rubs their eyes, murmuring softly. These morning whispers coalesce into a familiar chorus, like birdsong woven from breath and wool, rising gently within the cottage. A half-minus forgotten detail from an ancient parish manuscript surfaces quietly in your mind. It describes the rural custom of shaking out bedding each day, not merely for cleanliness, but to dispel lingering spirits of the night. Whether taken literally or as a symbol of renewal, the notion felt particularly apt when imagining bedding being tossed, straw fluffing, and child dissipating with the motion. You slowly shifted your legs to rise, yet the warmth beside you briefly pulled you back. The child's sleepy weight trusted heavily against your hip. Soft and utterly trusting, you stroke its shoulder, allowing this warmth to shelter it a moment longer, until the cold floor fully awakens it. A faint scent of tobacco and straw lingers in its hair, such a simple odor, yet strangely comforting. The rumble of an empty stomach sounds again, reminding you that the long night has sharpened hunger to a blade. You run your hand over your stomach once, accepting this hunger with calm acceptance. Winter breakfasts are always light, but at least the morning labor will warm the body. The greyish dawn light filtering through the slats of the shutters grows brighter, just enough to soften the shadows, outlining the tools against the wall and the curve of the low wooden stool. Dawn was slowly staining the entire room with its delicate hues. Unhurried and measured, you lifted your head once more, your lungs drawing in the crisp air with greater ease. Someone near the hearth began to stir, as if sensing the hour for stoking the fire was approaching. The embers flickered faintly, waiting patiently for deft hands to rouse them anew. You envisioned the first faint flames rising, warmth spreading through the dwelling like the dawn itself. A conversation heard by the village mill came to mind. Several had debated whether the comfort of morning stemmed from the darkness fading or the village appearing more tranquil as daylight returned. Though no consensus was reached, you found both perspectives compelling. Dawn brings clarity, brings action, and brings quiet solace. The harshest chill has temporarily retreated. You curled Ipu one last time, savoring the lingering warmth before it fades. Straw cushions your spine, or wraps your ribs. Family breaths weave into a uniquely soft quilt. You linger in this stillness, letting the morning light seep slowly into your thoughts. Soon you must rise. Soon you must shake out the bedding. Stoke the fire, fill the buckets, mend the gaps torn open by the storm. But not yet. You remain curled within the fragile warmth of transition, suspended between the long night and the new day. Draw in slowly, letting the dawn's first light sink into your chest, soft and bright. Close your eyes for a moment, savoring the stillness, then drift back towards sleep in the hushed, shimmering light, allowing the morning to wake you gently, not abruptly,